Part 332. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3325. This is why everyone present was surprised. Everyone, how could you all be so powerful? But if you want to intimidate me, Jia Yan, with your strength, you are still a little short of it. Let me ask you one more question. What is your purpose of approaching Xian Cheng? Seeing that everyone just came to surround him silently, Jia Yan asked again indifferently. At the same time, his heart sank slightly. The strength of the besiegers was indeed astonishing. Not to mention everyone who has reached the lower level of territory lord, and each one has a unique charm. In the words of the outside world, it means that the diversity is very strong. People from all major galaxies are naturally very diverse, but Jia Yan is also surprised. If these guys are all subordinates of a ticket holder or contender, why do they come from all major galaxies? Their top leader actually has such great charisma that he brings together so many beings from different origins. Of course, it could also be powerful people from all over the world in a very large galaxy. Galaxies that are hundreds of times larger than the Milky Way in the universe definitely do not exist. This can be explained. In short, the enemies Jia Yan faced not only had considerable strength, but also had a variety of momentum, which made them feel troublesome, because using a single fighting method was likely to be targeted by one of them. Jia Yan, right? Let's open the skylight and speak frankly. Our purpose is very simple. If you stop now, return to your galaxy, and never appear in the other world again, or don't appear in the other world in the last 1,000 years, your appearance is a coincidence. If you don't know the specific reason, it will be clear one day in the future. Now you just have to obey our orders and act. We don't want you to be so talented and young. It would be a waste of natural resources to lose it easily. Jia Yan's face turned gloomy, and he said with a cold expression, "Good boy, you wait for orders and act. Do you know how hard it has been for me to maintain and run a family for decades? It's finally the harvest season, and you want to let me know with just a few light words it would be unreasonable for me to throw away everything I got, so what if I say no? Humph, then I'll give you a toast instead of eating and you'll be punished with a drink." The face of a strange master turned pale, and his eyes turned pale when he glanced at Jia Yan's body, which made him feel dizzy. It's a deprivation attack of the 5 senses. Jia Yan reacted directly and his heart sank. At the same time, he did not stand idle and let the opponent attack. Even if he could find a way to bear this attack, there were still many other masters. He was in a panic but took 2 steps back with a calm expression, causing the opponent's twin strength to weaken considerably. Countless blue formation powers emerged from the surface of the body. Boom 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 boom. The overwhelming force behind him came at him crazily. It was actually an expert's method with extremely high attack power. It continuously bombarded behind Jia Yan, causing the defensive formation behind him to sway. What a beautiful defensive ability. He is indeed an extraordinary young man. Another voice came from Jia Yan's ear. It seemed that the other party was so close yet so far away. His words were full of admiration for Jia Yan, and even more murderous intent arose. Although the talent displayed by this young man shocked them, but because of this, he had a vague suspicion, could this young master really be able to grow into a master at the age of less than 200 years old? Isn't he a match for the big shot behind him? Impossible. That person's strength is more than that, but even if it doesn't work, the talent and ability he has shown will really make him a formidable enemy. If he is given more years to grow, it might really become a thorny problem. Since he is waiting for if you are responsible for the affairs here, you cannot allow such a guy to grow up. The few masters who came here were actually not subordinates of the same competitor. He did not want to show his incompetence in front of his boss, and he sincerely wanted to help his boss eliminate enemies on the road. Such stumbling blocks cannot be said to be a threat to their superiors, but stumbling blocks can also cause great harm. In the past countless years, many similar incidents have occurred. The stumbling blocks may not directly have the opportunity to obtain the ultimate benefit, but they, whichever side you lean towards, will increase the strength of other enemies, ultimately affecting the overall situation. This was the biggest reason why all the contenders in the later period unanimously eradicated and drove away the capable aliens in their sphere of influence. The me sound used by this newcomer is undoubtedly a mental attack method. Originally, Jia Yan could handle it well, and he could even do it without any major impact. But what happened was that after the other party's voice appeared, it had a complementary effect with the mental attack method used by the twin master. Jia Yan's whole body was slightly shaken. "I've been tricked. This kid is nothing more than that. We defeated the one before, and now we are all here. No matter how many tricks he has, how can we resist him?" Several people took action together, immediately creating a vulnerability for Jia Yan. The master behind him, whose attacks were like a torrential flood, suddenly entered an extremely strong state at this moment. His attack took advantage of Jia Yan's formation defense being affected by the mental attack, found a gap, poured into a crack, and then struck Jia Yan's figure. Puff. Damn it! Jia Yan couldn't help but his blood surged up, he spurted it out, and his momentum suddenly became weak. He's been hit, so I just said, I'll attack together and he won't be able to catch him. Don't worry, this battle is not over yet. It is normal for him to be unable to withstand our joint attack. The difficult thing is what comes next. Several masters had not yet recovered from the scene of winning with one blow. Jia Yan moved away with a cold expression and entered the subspace before the next master's attack came in front of him. Is this the so-called subspace ability? It is indeed extraordinary. In the starry sky where we are waiting, we are called shuttlers. Watch me immobilize him. The master who used the double child skill flashed his eyes and shot at the shadow of Momohuhu in the subspace. But what made him feel numb was that person's subspace skills were much more powerful and terrifying than he imagined. His eyes seemed to be on the path of his transfer every time, but every time he almost hit the opponent, he was twisted around and escaped. Seeing that Jia Yan was about to escape using his subspace ability, he turned back halfway. Compared with the opponent's strength, he estimated that even if he tried his best, it would be a bit unsatisfactory to defeat this group of strong men in a normal state. In fact, he just understood the contrast between strengths and weaknesses, and remembered what Hai Tian said to him just now, so he showed his weakness to the enemy and deliberately took a move. But it really hurts. I can't be too cowardly. I have to master the speed so that they feel that I'm not strong, but I'm still troublesome and they won't make more moves on me. Jia Yan knows how to do it. His true fighting ability has never been about confronting the enemy head-on. Since mastering the subspace ability, he has been using it to deal with powerful enemies. Today is another day to use subspace capabilities to fight the enemy. The subspace in this world is incredibly deep. Although it is getting closer and closer to the Milky Way, causing the depth to decrease day by day, it is by no means a pressure that ordinary people of the same level can imagine. In the space near Xiancheng, Jia Yan's coming and going became more comfortable thanks to the shallower depth. Puff. Turn around and come behind the master who uses the double boy. Careful. At the same time, a master who had never made a move and seemed to be blind, yelled loudly before Jia Yan was about to fly out of the subspace. Perception type? These guys really have all kinds of weapons. Jia Yan suddenly felt that it was extremely difficult and suddenly changed the direction. Anyway, his speed in subspace is extremely fast. This attack was broken, but what about the next one? With the warning words from the previous person still in his ears, Jia Yan came to the side of the master who used overwhelming attack power, and his speed was so fast. Small. Puff. Before the extremely vigilant master had time to make a sound, Jia Yan's foot had already stabbed out fiercely, leaving a blood mark on the shoulder of the creature with high attack power, and once again sneaked into the subspace. Boom boom. Behind him were waves of attacks from several masters, but before that, he had already left the original subspace, and the attack power of these people only caused a burst of blue waves in the deep subspace. Destruction of subspace cannot be achieved. Jia Yan, who was some distance away, was naturally not affected. For a moment, several experts looked at their slightly injured companion, and their expressions began to look ugly. They had clearly injured Jia Yan just now, but Jia Yan used his true fighting ability, and they were suddenly unhappy. This person's subdimensional ability is almost like a ghost. Their attacks often do not hit this person's body and are dodged by him. And by taking advantage of the extremely high distortion of the subspace around the inner world, he could achieve speeds beyond imagination. Every time, he appeared in a place where they had no time to react. If he stayed for a long time, he would lose. As expected, some of them were injured. It's very tricky. No one in our galaxy can achieve this ability. Why can he come and go so freely in that shuttle space? We have obviously sent people with shuttle ability into the shuttle space before. If they touch it, they will die. It is impossible to move in it. It shows that his talent in this area is unimaginably high. I didn't think Jia Yan was any threat before, but now that his ability to travel through space is revealed, I have to change my previous thoughts. Although the use of such trivial skills should not pose any more threats to my superiors, it can indeed easily cause us to fail in our work. The problem of slow update of new chapters has finally been solved with an app that can change the source. Download the Huanyuan app source changing app here and view the latest chapters of this book on multiple sites at the same time. The visitors looked at each other in confusion. As experts, they could tell many things from one or two battles. Although Jia Yan's attack method is very simple and effective, things are the most useful. They boasted that even if these four masters joined forces, it would be difficult to restrict Jia Yan's movement, let alone cause harm to him. If we delay it, we might be dragged to death. Okay, let me communicate with him. After the four masters made eye contact, they suddenly found a solution. Jia Yan. One of them walked out at the lead, facing Jia Yan's figure flashing and moving in the subspace, and said in a serious voice. Buzz. A gap opened in the subspace, and Jia Yan's slightly tired figure appeared in front of them. The two sides kept a certain distance and looked at each other. What made the other party slightly surprised was that Jia Yan's current state was obviously not suitable for the subspace of this world. If you think about it carefully, you will know that the top shuttle talent masters in their galaxy cannot withstand the pressure here. Even Jia Yan's subspace, no matter how strong the spatial talent is, it is absolutely impossible to exceed it by too much. That being said, it's hard to say who will win if the delay with this guy continues. But that's it. They don't want to fail in their work, and they don't want to be killed or injured because of such a guy who doesn't even know the inside story. Why can he come and go so freely in that shuttle space? We have obviously sent people with shuttle ability into the shuttle space before. If they touch it, they will die. It is impossible to move in it. It shows that his talent in this area is unimaginably high. I didn't think Jia Yan was any threat before, but now that his ability to travel through space is revealed, I have to change my previous thoughts. Although the use of such trivial skills should not pose any more threats to my superiors, it can indeed easily cause us to fail in our work. The visitors looked at each other in confusion. As experts, they could tell many things from one or two battles. Although Jia Yan's attack method is very simple and effective, things are the most useful. They boasted that even if these four masters joined forces, it would be difficult to restrict Jia Yan's movement, let alone cause harm to him. If we delay it, we might be dragged to death. Well, let's communicate with them. After the four masters made eye contact, They suddenly found a solution. Jia Yan. One of them walked out at the lead, facing Jia Yan's figure flashing and moving in the subspace, and said in a serious voice. Buzz. A gap opened in the subspace, and Jia Yan's slightly tired figure appeared in front of them. The two sides kept a certain distance and looked at each other. What made the other party slightly surprised was that Jia Yan's current state was obviously not suitable for the subspace of this world. If you think about it carefully, you will know that the top shuttle talent masters in their galaxy cannot withstand the pressure here. Even Jia Yan's subspace, no matter how strong the spatial talent is, it is absolutely impossible to exceed it by too much. That being said, it's hard to say who will win if the delay with this guy continues. But that's it. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3326. Jia Yan finally signed an agreement with these four people. It's not that he's really afraid, but it's not bad for him. There are white clouds in the sky, and in the distance are several large intruders running away quickly. Jia Yan watched the other party leave, and soon these extremely powerful men lost sight of them, but he was still looking up. I don't know when the figure of Lao Haitian appeared next to me. How is it? How do you feel about contacting these new guys? Jia Yan looked back and smiled slightly. I don't have many impressions now, but I can think of their strength and the terrifying power behind them. It is indeed as amazing as you said, Senior. So I said, it's nothing to show weakness to the enemy, but did you really hold back just now? You have already tried your best. Facing such a force, it is very dangerous for them to know their full strength. Matter. Jia Yan knew clearly that this was Haitian testing his own strength. If his strength was just like that, perhaps Haitian would choose to give up on joining forces with him. This matter is related to Haitian's own promotion plan. He is afraid that he has been waiting for this day for a long time, so if Jia Yan does something bad, it will be useless no matter how good the relationship is. Well, how should I put it? I did show some of my strength just now. Part of it? If you say that, old man, I'll feel relieved. So what if my answer is that all my cards are revealed? No, it's just that I, the old man, will leave early tomorrow morning and go elsewhere to find the capital to fight these guys. Jia Yan became curious and inquired further, Senior, you should also know what kind of enemy you will face through these two battles. You must know that their so-called boss must be a character with more amazing strength than them. In this way, you still have the confidence to compete with them. Don't say whether you have it or not, just whether you dare to do it or not. As a person like me who has nothing, as long as I dare to do it, what if my opponent is in a realm above the territory lord? Jia Yan was speechless. At this moment, he suddenly felt that a powerful being above the lower level of the territory lord really appeared in front of him, and it seemed that Haitian dared to step forward and fight. This old man's character is indeed very violent. Senior, you can rest assured. I have not fully used my trump cards and abilities. The next time those four people meet again, I won't worry about the instigators behind their backs. I can easily overthrow them with one person of. Yeah, that's good. Haitian didn't know whether to believe it or not. He nodded noncommittally and then announced his departure after saying a few pleasantries. This old man is really a bit mysterious, but he is indeed quite mysterious. He entered the other world inexplicably before, and then went to the mainland alone in the other world. He also found items that can extend life. Come to think of it, he still has some secrets that we don't understand. Jia Yan turned to look at the departing figure, finally chuckled, and jumped up, heading towards the Xiancheng station. No matter how terrifying the master is around him, it will definitely be difficult for him to feel any sense of threat. This old Haitian may not even be called a terrible master. What can he do if he has other means? No matter what, he can't compare to the stick man he fought against in the central star field of the Milky Way. Even the stick man can be roughly defeated, or his life can be guaranteed from his hands. This is the greatest affirmation for Jia Yan. Therefore, no matter how strong Hai Tian is, he cannot be stronger than himself, because if he has the strength of a stick man, he will not be lonely and helpless all his life, and will be hunted to death. A secret? Who doesn't have a secret? Jia Yan's only regret is that he has no chance to see the so-called ancient book. If you see it, you can speculate on what both parties said and get the real answer. Jia Yan didn't believe the four intruders, and he didn't completely trust Hai Tian either. In the world of the strong, trusting someone completely is the absolute biggest joke. If you trust others, they may be weaker than you and they will use their little tricks to eradicate you. Therefore, it is impossible for Jia Yan to believe what Hai Tian said. This is not a question of trust or distrust, but a basic thinking mode that a strong man must have. The ticket thing is an opportunity for me to get a glimpse of the whole world. At the same time, they say that I am young and have no chance to compete for it. But if I don't do this kind of thing, who knows the result? Jia Yan snorted coldly. The four intruders, plus Haitian himself, all questioned his qualifications. Perhaps Hai Tian trusted Jia Yan more in terms of strength, but just having enough strength was by no means a necessary factor when fighting for certain treasures. In more cases, fighting is not the only option, because there will always be someone stronger than you in this world, so during the battle, the test will probably be your comprehensive quality in all aspects. Jia Yan, who had sufficient strength but lacked age and experience, was naturally excluded. But what are young people? That is, only those who are passionate can be young people. They may not have more experience than their elders, but their drive and indomitable spirit are often the reasons that lead them to achieve great things. Countless major events in the world are actually done by young people. Of course, looking at the problem from the perspective of a junior territory lord, a junior territory lord of Jia Yan's age may not even be called a young man, at most he can be regarded as a young child. Sara has a certain amount of combat power, but does not pose any threat. It just so happens that my status in their eyes is like this. It's not like I can't take advantage of this. Jia Yan knew that his strength was accurate, which not only made them feel troublesome, but also did not arouse more vigilance. In addition, due to his age, the four people misjudged that even if Jia Yan wanted to, it is impossible to find a clear path even if you seize the opportunity. In fact, there was no explanation from Haitian to Jia Yan. It might take Jia Yan a long time to figure out the so-called admission ticket. Very good, I will use the time you gave me to continue to improve myself and prepare myself. The war between the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce and the invading enemies, under the gaze of everyone thought that it was entering a new era. The Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has gradually begun large-scale recruitment and more scientific and effective training methods, and there should be a sudden wave of troops next. But they stopped completely. On the other side, Ben suffered several heavy losses at the hands of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, and even killed several enemy soldiers who were equivalent to subdivision masters. Amidst the eager expectations of the outside world, he did not escalate the war. On the contrary, it was an unexpected and proactive retreat. Several areas were given up, causing the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce to take over. But at this stage, the two sides did not have any more confrontations. Damn it! An extremely small creature flew through the air, slashing at the creature that was like a mountain to him, but missed. In view of the general environment, this site may be closed at any time. Please move to the permanent source changing app, Huanyuan app, as soon as possible. An assassination team from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce? I know you. Are you the so-called king of soldiers? You are indeed as small as the rumors say, but have you found the wrong target? I am not a target you can assassinate. The mountain-like creature is a giant man. Although he is only at the galaxy level with very average strength, he is still an upper middle level strongman in the other world. The extremely small human creature is a member of the Earth's King of Soldiers squad. Moreover, he was the original King of Soldiers, whom Jia Yan personally valued, and thus achieved his current status. He has also made rapid progress in the past few years, and his strength has improved. With his small body and formation ability, completed many incredible tasks. Now his target is actually the galaxy-level master in front of him. You must know that the galaxy level of the giant race is at least one level stronger than the ordinary races in the world. Their fighting talent and size are there, and it is difficult for experts at the same level to compare with them. This Enterdeo level giant who has reached the upper and lower levels of the galaxy is equivalent to an ordinary being close to the subdivision level. The man in front of him, the king of human soldiers on Earth, wanted to kill such a being through assassination. It was simply a fantasy. He is just a master close to the semi-star level. With his size and array genetic talent, he can be regarded as a semi-star player, and his progress is not bad, but it depends on who he is compared with. Comparing him to the Taoist level giant man in front of him was like a joke. It was more ridiculous than a baby hitting a human being. Indeed, the target code is giant. Your ability is not something I can fight against, but when our King of Soldiers squad goes into battle, it is never a battle of spirits alone. As he spoke, a large number of Earth soldiers appeared in the sky like ants. There were about 300 people. This is already half of the Earth soldiers who are willing to come to the trade zone to serve as soldiers. Not all of them have formation abilities. After all, Jia Yan doesn't have time to help so many people on Earth convert their genes. But everyone has a role on this team. Don't be nervous, just follow the training. The members of the King of Soldiers squad showed excitement and vigilance, and those who used subspace abilities joined forces to perform a large-scale sealing technique. Other combat professionals are busy with their own affairs. Even the more civilian-oriented team members have their own work to do. Everyone has their own busy place, and everyone is organized. So the entire King of Soldiers squad is here? Just in time, let me defeat your so-called King of Soldiers squad and make my name famous. The giant man looked slightly happy. The Soldier King squad may seem weak, but their reputation has been great recently because the Soldier King squad has carried out many assassinations against weak mid-level commanders of the Alliance army, each time causing small-scale turmoil. Although he is at the pinnacle of the Dao and is on the verge of crossing the threshold to enter the subdivision level, he is still willing to use his strength to bully the smaller ones and eradicate the entire squad of the King of Soldiers. He might even be praised highly by the military commanders. Look at one end. Just you little bugs. He is a giant, with a size of less than 10,000 kilometers, but he is almost more than 8,000 kilometers tall. 300 Earthlings are enough to live on him. Talk about it? If ordinary people on Earth heard that in this world, a group of Earth soldiers are attacking a life form that is far larger than the Moon and not much smaller than the Earth, I am afraid that everyone would be stunned. Many people on Earth are still looking forward to the hundreds of disciples who were taken away by the ape clones, hoping that they will all become stars and return to Earth to make a mark. But their expectations may have been realized in this world. The current King of Soldiers team, let alone a star-level team, will not have too many problems even if they join forces to fight against a star-level team. Today they are going to make history and join forces to fight against a humane giant who is about to reach the subdivision level. The so-called submaster level has a huge span, ranging from the peak of the mid-level galaxy to the senior domain master. Although this person is not less than a second master, he is almost at the level of a master in the middle level of the galaxy. Moreover, he has a body comparable to that of a planet. This may not be an exaggerated figure for the life forms of the other world, but it can be faced when the Earthlings are strong. This mountain-like defense can be said to be almost despairing. The Earth Soldier King's team really came here to look for discomfort without any brains. That certainly won't happen. I saw more than 300 members of the Soldier King's squad with eyes full of fanaticism. In the past few years, all of them have grown up from scratch. No matter how long they join, it only takes 3 or 2 years. Everyone's ideals and enthusiasm are at their highest stage. Everyone has witnessed with their own eyes that the Earthling team, which was regarded as the weakest, has grown rapidly in the past few years and completed tasks that they never dared to dream of. This kind of glory also makes them more confident about their own existence and the team. The sense of glory was so strong that it couldn't be stronger. When they saw this mission today, everyone was filled with anger. Kill. Among this team, there is a man who looks ordinary. However, the formation he used was the most outstanding among the entire team members. He was jokingly called the future king of soldiers by his superiors. His talent was invincible. But he himself knew that was not the case at all. He is a child from Jia Yan's brother-in-law's family. Find the bookstore. Jia Lin should call him nephew, but this relationship is of no importance to Jia Yan. When Jia Lin personally led the people over, Jia Yan could not refuse and reluctantly helped him convert the array gene. It was not a perfect level. But he is also the best choice, which is why his talent is much stronger than that of the Earthlings present. He kept his name anonymous, not wanting to waste the efforts he received from senior Mosquito ancestor. Moreover, it has been a full year since he joined the Soldier King squad. He has gradually integrated into this group. At the same time, he is proud of being a member of the Soldier King squad and is full of a sense of identity. We must kill this giant. As long as he is killed, our team of the King of Soldiers on Earth will be recognized. By killing an existence that has almost reached the subdivision level, we people on Earth can also feel proud and proud. From now on, we will not be here anymore. Some people say that people on Earth only rely on seniors from the Geo family. Full of enthusiasm, he rushed over like crazy. Blue formation light bloomed in his hands. Behind him were a dozen Earthlings who also had array talents, and they all took action together. Rumble, rumble. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3327. The heroes from the Earth all attacked, but when their attacks came to the body of the giant, they melted like spring snow and could not even break the opponent's skin. The giant warrior was initially a little wary, but when he saw that these tiny warriors couldn't even break through his own defenses, he felt relieved and couldn't help laughing. He stretched out his big cattail leaf fan hand, covered the sky and the earth with his palm, and slapped towards the members of the Soldier King squad flying in the sky. The soldiers of the King of Soldiers team stood scattered, but the slap covered them, which was at least half the size of the Huaxia kingdom. Under the cover of the members, many members were affected by the power of the slap, unable to move, and were about to die before their eyes. I saw the power of the path opening formation blooming in front of me, blocking the palm for a second. 1 second is enough for the others to escape. Everyone saw that the person who took action was actually a young man with a rather mysterious identity. According to the above, he should be from a prominent family. The former King of Soldiers in the distance, who was also the commander-in-chief of the entire King of Soldiers team, became energetic. Just now he thought that he would lose more than 10 capable men. Unexpectedly, no one has died yet. Seeing that the situation was almost complete, he suddenly pointed his finger. The small teams that were standing scattered just now burst out with bursts of circle brilliance, and a huge circle formation covering about 5,000 kilometers appeared in the sky. The giant man's expression darkened. He knew that the tiny creatures from the galaxy seemed to be very powerful, but their only problem was that their systems were too weak, and the power they exuded was definitely less than half of the masters in the other world. This is true even at the same level. These so-called Earthlings are worse than bugs, nothing more than bacteria, but their combined power is enough to cover a radius of 5,000 kilometers, which can be said to be unimaginable for creatures of this size. It's not as simple as looking taller than you are. The king of soldiers pushed forward with both hands, his fleshy palms seemed to be moving, and his expression became slightly labored. The moves they used from beginning to end were all from the killing moves that Edisha had researched over the years. Every move contains two words: calculation. That is to say, the complexity and sophistication of each move requires everyone in mathematics to understand it. This guy, who happens to come from Earth, in addition to possessing a certain amount of talent, is also a diligent and studious little genius who is quite sensitive to mathematics. At least it is not too difficult to pick up Edisha's research results. So he took charge of this army and was able to perform such a terrifying move. The circle of formations in the sky was like a rapidly moving light mirror, slamming towards the giant. The giant men never thought of dodging, because their dodging speed could not match the formation rings. He roared, then clenched his fist tightly and struck hard at the incoming halo. The blue halo withstood this shocking blow and suddenly shook violently. Everyone spurted out a mouthful of blood. Even the king of soldiers himself was in unbearable pain, but he gritted his teeth and held on, his eyes looking again. Get serious. After the halo blocked this person's blow, it dispersed into about 10 smaller halos. 2 of them continued to prevent his attack, while the other 8 found Zi's path to attack his weak points. For decades in the other world, people on Earth have conducted research on most races in the other world. Fact. The work unit studied above is the specialized department of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. In the area over Xiancheng, there are still most races, at least the life forms within the dynasty, including the giant race with a large population, which is also known as the strongest race within the dynasty. Even the royal family claims to be a greater race evolved from the giants. Although they have separated from the giants' identity, they also admit that they are blood related to the giants, and there are even more giants among other ministers. This shows how much research is needed on the giant race. Anyway, Jia Yan personally issued the death order to attack the giants' weaknesses in a targeted manner. After so many years, not only he himself knew many characteristics of the giants, but even these grassroots combat units also had first-hand information on the giants. Before the war, they had researched the giants' weaknesses and arranged various combat missions accordingly. Now is the time to show results. A sub-commander commanded his team and roared loudly. The team members behind him responded to his voice and followed the commander's energy, and the assembled array power fiercely stabbed the giant's eyes. This halo-like formation actually turned into a sword shape and was about to pierce into his eyes. The giants are similar to the people on Earth. Their eyes and several vital organs of the body are very important organs. What if we are attacked here? After the giant man's expression changed slightly, he raised one of his palms and blocked it in front of him. At this time, several major teams on the other side took the opportunity to launch attacks. One was aimed at the giant man's chest, the other was aimed at his temple, and several others turned into various array weapons to attack vital points such as the penis. Don't talk dirty. If you can still be said to be a gentleman when fighting a monster bigger than the moon, then everyone will admire you. To fight against such a monster, you only need to consider how to win. This is also the motto that the King of Soldiers team has adhered to the most since their debut. The giant man swept away the sword-shaped halo in front of his eyes with a slap, and the palm teleported at the speed of light and came to his chest, blocking the halo that pierced his chest. But S attack was too late to solve. I saw the giant man feeling a pain down there. Now it was broken, and he felt that the happiness of his lower body was a bit precarious. These key points are places that are difficult for similar human races to defend. This is true even for the giants. Once such a vital point is attacked beyond the threshold, there will definitely be no good results. The entire Soldier King team became excited because of the effectiveness of this attack. A mere vital point was attacked, but even though it was not fatal, It angered the giant man. Ignoring the vital points at his back, he stepped up with his big foot. There was a huge sound on the ground, and he saw that he directly hit the front of a small team in a way that did not seem to use such a large body. The giant man collided with the halo in front of the team, and an unimaginable amount of force came from him. The defensive force of the formation blocking the team was unable to stop it, and it only lasted for less than 0.01 seconds before it collapsed. The gap between the two sides is too great. Ping. But what made him feel uncomfortable was that the move that was supposed to eliminate this team in one fell swoop collapsed because of the young Earthlings who stepped forward again. The son of Jia Yan's brother-in-law's family appeared next to the team again, and the power of the formation was released, blocking the figure of the giant man for a moment. This moment lasted about tenths of a second. Compared with the time when the team just joined forces to defend, the imperial power must be 10 times greater. Don't underestimate a mere tenth of a second. In this case, a tenth of a second can be the difference between life and death. I have to get the credit for him this time. The expression of the Earth Soldier King became happier. He knew that even if their fighting power was still insufficient, with the presence of this young man, their chances of winning might be greatly improved. At the same time, he was also wondering, what method did this young man use to fight? It's obviously not his own strength. The defensive power is so amazing that it can't even hinder the attack of a giant. According to the King of Soldiers' knowledge, there are not many people in the entire formation system who can do such a thing. And the caster is definitely not present, so the young man is using the life-saving method that is left in his body or some kind of artifact, and there are even fewer people who can do this. For a moment, he thought it was Jia Yan who gave him the power himself, but he denied it. Because of the abilities of Senior Mosquito Ancestor, he had long heard about it. When he was performing official duties in this world, he was personally received by Mosquito Ancestor. He was an unimaginable peerless master. If such a master gives any means, it should be more than enough to kill a galaxy level, so what this young man has in his hands should not belong to the Mosquito Ancestor. This commander from Earth, who is also the current King of Soldiers, was the first person from other forces in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce to admit that a simple Earthling was capable, and he silently remembered his guess. With such a young man present, the casualty rate would surely be lower. They were not sure at first, but now that they know that such a background character exists, they must be much more sure. Obviously, the giant also found that he was in the team of Earthlings in front of him, and the most important thing to care about was the young man in front of him. I saw a ring on one of the young man's palms emitting a halo. The halo enveloped his entire body, and then he endured a collision from the giant's face to face. Instead of the evacuated team, he fought against the giant man alone. Boom! The ground shook. Endless waves exploded across the area. Just when everyone around him was worried, the young figure rushed out of the smoke even more precariously. He shouted. The King of Soldiers nodded fiercely, and then issued instructions to the surroundings. Their method of communication is to use radio, otherwise each of them would be several kilometers away, and the farthest way would be hundreds of thousands of kilometers away, and they would not be able to see each other. Even so, communication is quite inconvenient, because light can only travel 300,000 kilometers per second, and it often takes a second for orders to be received. Fortunately, people on Earth have long been accustomed to this way of fighting. Poof! A sword-shaped light and shadow penetrated into the smoke, and the pained groan of the giant man came from inside. They are the strongest in the entire King of Soldiers team. Attack team, but other teams did not have such attack power, so Edisha specially studied a new formation for them in response to this situation. Two teams gathered together to form 4 medium-sized teams. In this way, twice the strength of the formation is comparable to that of the team that just took action. Under the command of the King of Soldiers, everyone used their formation power to rush into the smoke. The voice of the giant man excited everyone. When the smoke and dust passed and the situation reappeared in everyone's eyes, this joy finally turned into reality. The giant man, who was so powerful just now, had countless holes in his body, and they were all riddled with holes by their attacks. Some members of the King of Soldiers team couldn't help but rejoice, roared at the fallen torso of the giant man, as if he was proud of himself. The people on Earth have not experienced such a proud moment for too long. The swords of the strongest attacking team were restrained, and a woman flew out from among them, smiling and thanking the young man from her brother-in-law's family who had just taken action. The young man responded with a shy smile, and everyone could see that he seemed to have a unique fondness for this woman. But the young man's expression soon changed drastically, and he stood directly in front of the woman. When the woman reacted, she saw that the world in front of her suddenly darkened. It turned out that the giant man, who seemed to be seriously injured and dying, leaped up and hit the young man with all his strength. This is someone who needs a backup before death. After all, this young man posed a great threat to him and was also the biggest reason why he was dying now. He also hated it very much. By you. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3328. Adisha-senpai, I can only rely on you. The young man's eyes were about to burst, and the ring in his hand exploded into pieces, and then the whole day fell silent. He, you are naughty again. This time your opponent is such a powerful expert. It's good. A childish voice appeared in the sky, and everyone followed it, and everyone was stunned. I saw a cardamom girl wearing a pink dress appeared in the sky. Her ungrown eyebrows were full of youthful beauty, and her facial features seemed to be perfect. Her happy and angry little face was covered with the light of wisdom. Adisha-senpai? No, is this an incarnation? The young man's eyes were dull. He never thought that the ring he had worn for many years could still have such an effect. Doesn't it mean that, many things he did were monitored by the ring, and Senior Edisha would also know about it? The girl appeared between heaven and earth, but her figure was anything but ordinary. Instead, she had reached a size of tens of kilometers. Although she could not compare with the giants in the other world who were nearly 10,000 kilometers away, she could not compare with the original little one who was only about 1.5 meters tall. Girls get confused. Kid, you have grown up? Just watch and let me beat him. This figure's eyes were wandering, and she looked like a little kid. She was exactly the same as Edisha. But upon closer inspection, the young man discovered that the Senior Edisha in front of him was not a normal life form. Her body was made using an extremely unique formation structure. In other words, she was not a life form at all. It's not even a clone of Adisa. This is a unique formation technique. Senior Edisha is indeed as smart as a demon in the formation. The young man was amazed. Roll. After being blocked by the formation Edisha for several breaths, the giant became furious again, and lines of muscle appeared on his body. This was the use of the giant's unique brute force talent. It is one of the most powerful races in the world, and with this skill in using brute force, it is no wonder that the giants have always been unique. Whether here or on the other side of the distant continent, the giants are a powerful race. Of course, on the mainland, the appearance of the giant race may not be completely human. They are so far apart and their blood relationship is thin. In short, they must be similar races. Yo! What a domineering power! Editha looked surprised at the formation and stretched out a pair of white palms. Buzz! Waves of mysterious power leaked from her palm, and a circular formation halo formed from behind Edisha. The halo suddenly enlarged, exceeding 10,000 kilometers in an instant, or even 100,000 kilometers. This halo, which looks like a small sun, can be seen across the entire land. The giant seemed to feel the terror of this halo, and with a look of horror on his face, he tried hard to punch his fist, which weighed more than 100 million kilograms, in the direction of Edisha. Aradeo Edisha ignored it and said calmly, "You all seem to have learned some of my formations, you can see them clearly." She actually had time to give advice to the people at hand. Everyone was refreshed and quickly watched attentively. As for the danger? If this figure is the rumored senior Edisha, then there is nothing to worry about. This person's ability has long been verified in the trade area and the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, although his actual combat ability may not be comparable to that of compared with Jia Yan. No one is even sure that she can compare with many partners, because those partners have the strength of senior domain masters, or the strength of junior domain masters, but in terms of formation path, Editha is second. No one, if you dare to admit that you are the first, there should be no problem in dealing with the giants who are not at the level of domain lords. I saw that Edisha's figure was made up of extremely complex formations, and the halo behind her was also made up of formations, but it needed to be analyzed much more briefly. Everyone roughly understood the principles of the formation. Boom. At the same time, the giant's fist also struck the formation's body, and her body seemed to be broken into light spots, scattered to all directions. Before everyone could panic, another light and shadow appeared next to the giant's body, his eyes smiling. Temperament is lively and energetic. If it weren't for Edisha's formation body, what was it? She pressed down with her little hand, and the formation halo in the sky shrank violently, binding the giant man inside. The giants roared unwillingly, but to no avail. It was completely impossible to break free from the binding of this formation. In an instant, Yun Dan Fengqing turned this extremely arrogant giant into a turtle in a jar. Everyone gasped. During the whole process, they did not feel the energy fluctuations of the formation Edisha, indicating that the power of the formation itself was not too much. Otherwise, Edisha would have consumed a lot of her own power to create this formation. But it turns out that the opponent should have borrowed some power from the world. It can be said that this battle did not use much of Edisha's own power at all. But the effect is surprisingly good. Not only did he directly arrest the giants, he also gave a vivid lesson to everyone present. New. Editha looked at the thoughtful crowd, shrank in size, and came to the young man from her brother-in-law's family. "I've met Senior." The young man quickly came to his senses. "What are you going to do with this giant? Let me tell you in advance that the power in the ring is almost exhausted. I don't have that much power to help you transport it?" Editha asked. She obviously didn't believe that the 300 Earthling troops in front of her could carry such a huge life form. "Edisha-senpai just needs to kill it. We have video data to prove that the mission was successful." Edisha nodded and said, "Okay." Before he finished speaking, he saw that the halo turned into a sharp shape and cut the giants into several pieces. The screams stopped abruptly. Edisha showed no mercy at all. This giant must have done many evil things and had killed many mortals or the troops of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce before entrusting such a task to the Soldier King's team. "He's dead, but you don't have to hand over the image data, just say it's bad. Let this credit go to you. I'm not that bad, but the people on Earth are." Editha was concise and to the point. The young man was startled, and then agreed ecstatically. "I have met Senior Edisha. What you said, can we take it seriously? The people on Earth really need such a great achievement." The king of soldiers behind him also flew forward. He heard Edisha's words on the way, and his expression was filled with joy. Edisha smiled and responded, "Here you go. Edisha doesn't want to be so famous, I'll just play ball first, bye." After Edisha finished speaking, her figure disappeared and turned into a ring again, which was inserted into the young man's fingertips. The king of soldiers looked at the ring with deep envy in his expression. It seems that this ring can be used again. Maybe the power in it will be replenished with the passage of time. This young man has countless opportunities to let Edisha's formation body take action. It seems that your life experience is very noble. Senior Edisha will actually give you this ring, but you don't have to worry. I will announce this matter and let them not spread it. Besides, if it is spread, our Earth's King of Soldiers team, the merits of Mr. Greedy Adisa have been leaked. Captain, I just don't want people to know my identity. In fact, I am. The King of Soldiers waved his hand and said, needless to say, I understand that among the more than 300 people, they all have their own identities, and maybe there are some people similar to you. This kind of thing I won't pursue it, as long as it doesn't affect the specific work of our King of Soldiers team, it's fine. Yes. The young man suppressed his uneasiness. He thought that his identity had been exposed and he was about to leave the Soldier King squad. He has fallen in love with this army. If he loses this place, it will be like losing a harbor that makes him feel good. Oh! The Earth Soldier King's team unexpectedly attacked, killing a giant who almost entered the subdivision level. Back to the president, this matter was reported by them themselves, but according to our intelligence, this is not the case. It was Lady Edissa who took action. Within half an hour after the battle, Jia Yan received this piece of information that surprised him. The first thing is that the Soldier King's team reported it themselves, and the second thing is that the unique intelligence department in the army also reported what they saw and heard to him. Although he knew that the King of Soldiers team had concealed the true situation, Jia Yan was not worried. Because this is the request given by Edisha. Haha, it seems that little guy wants to give the credit to the people on Earth. He directly understood Edisha's good intentions. This little guy seemed like a little brat in front of me, but when it came to a big event, he did it flawlessly and in every aspect. The people of the Earth have been suffering from the lack of high-end combat power for too long. In more than 100 years, when they went to war, they could only look up to Jia Yan, and then watch other civilizations fight to the death, but they did not even have the courage to intervene. Then it became the object of ridicule and ridicule by many civilized forces. If you only have an empty reputation and no strength, you will end up like this. But today, people on Earth finally have a chance to stand up. That was a giant who was about to enter the subdivision level. It is equivalent to the mid-level galaxy that is about to enter the domain lord level. Such a existence was conquered by the people on Earth, which shows that the people on Earth also have relatively high-end combat power, and this is more than 100 years ago when people on Earth entered the starry sky. Compared with those ordinary civilized forces, it takes thousands of people to set foot in the starry sky. It is only possible to step into this level in 2010, which is as fast as a rocket. Therefore, the future growth of the people on Earth will be promoted by others, and no civilization will look down on the people on Earth. Overall, the result of this battle may be short-sighted, and only one person on Earth will be killed. A giant race that is not at the territory lord level, but placed on the entire Earth's human civilization, it is a huge leap to a certain extent. It is more far-reaching than having one more territory lord level as a backer for the Earth's people. The problem of slow update of new chapters has finally been solved with an app that can change sources. Download the Spuin Source Change app here and view the latest chapters of this book on multiple sites at the same time. Then let them take the credit. The people on Earth really need a shot in the arm. But later on I will personally go over and teach them something. Otherwise, this title will be in vain and they will not actually kill that person. The abilities of the giants will be exposed if we encounter related tasks in the future. Jia Yan agreed with Edish's operation. Things soon turned into a veritable situation where the Earth's King of Soldiers team killed a giant who was close to the subdivision level. The news quickly spread throughout the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's army. After Jia Yan reached an agreement with the mysterious Four Masters, there have been very few battles recently. When both sides are in peace, this piece of information is extremely dazzling. In normal times, it is possible to kill a master who is not even a subdivision. It is something that is bound to happen every few days, but in non-war times, but it is extremely attractive. Moreover, the ones who killed the giant were the Earthling race troops who were considered to have high status but low strength. At this time, the reputation of the King of Soldiers team suddenly rose. There are those who don't believe it, and there are those who firmly believe it, and some want to find out what skills the people on Earth relied on in this battle. Anyway, after this battle, the respect and fame gained by the people on Earth were at the peak of the sky. What everyone valued was not how strong the enemies the people on Earth had killed, but the possibility that they could continue to maintain such upward potential in the future. The future prospects were absolutely bright. Is Edisha's formation clone technique. And judging from the video data of that day, Edisha's clone must have very different characteristics. Jia Yan has forgotten that people on Earth gained fame through cheating. He was studying the formation clone technique that Edisha showed that day. No matter how many times he watched the video, he always clicked his tongue. Surprisingly, he felt that Editha's skills had reached a point where even he was astonished. It's really too mysterious. I've watched it so many times but I still can't figure out what techniques she uses. Her life form shouldn't be able to develop such unparalleled formation techniques. Where does that come from? Where's the inspiration? The more Jia Yan looked at it, the more he felt that this technique might be useful to him. So after watching it for a few days, he felt like he was being scratched. He couldn't continue his daily practice. He always felt that he needed to study the clone formation technique. Finally, on the weekend of the first week, he went to Shuyuan and made up his mind. Well, you can't tell anything by yourself, so why not let Edisha come over? She has been traveling in the stars with Leda for several years, and now is the opportunity to come back and have a good reunion. He took out his unique communicator and sent a message to the other end of the communicator. Because it is a bit unkind to just call her Edisha. Xiao, who is inseparable from Edisha, and Mengbu Jiao, was also a disciple that Jia Yan once valued very much. If he didn't call her, he would favor one over the other, so Jia Yan also posted on Xiao Er's channel. A message was sent. As for whether the two of them plus Leda can come, it depends on whether they are free. In fact, there is still time. Editha's response was very fast, and it was almost sent out here. The signal went through several relays, and spread out of the subspace, then entered the starry sky, and then moved at a speed exceeding the speed of light to reach where Editha is now. In the starry sky area, it was already several days later. After receiving the information, Edisha set off with Leda as soon as possible and sent a message back, saying that she could come to the other world. Remember the website address of this website, for easy reading next time, or enter in Baidu to enter the site. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3329. Xiao is now practicing and instructing ordinary disciples in the newly built Yin-Yang sect branch not far from the trade area. After receiving Jia Yan's invitation, Xiao smiled so brightly that his pink fish body spun around in the air several times, and then returned happily. In the trade area, waiting for the train to enter the other world. Soon, two more figures came from afar. Xiao, do you miss your sister? Think about it. Edisha and little pink fish hugged each other. The two little kids were now grown up and jumping around as before. I've met Miss Xiao. Leda greeted Xiao with a smile. Senior Leda, you're welcome. By the way, Senior Leda, have you found an opportunity for promotion? How can it be that simple? It's just a little bit sketchy. Leda is still smiling. In fact, Leda has been looking for an opportunity for his promotion for a long time. But compared to his entire life, these decades are just a blink of an eye, so he is not in a hurry to be promoted. He knows that he is not Jia Yan, nor is he Edisha. His talents are far inferior to Xiao. If you don't want to be fat, it's important to have a calm mind. Over the years, he has been helping and accompanying Edisha. When it comes to this little girl, he is amazing. Because he followed Edisha, from the beginning Edisha had to ask him many things, but now it has become him to follow and learn from him, and because of asking Edisha, Gendeo has become his strongest method. Perhaps profound the unpredictable level is no longer inferior to Jiayan, but of course the strength will be much worse. That is to say, Lada's opportunity for promotion has not been found, but his strength has roughly doubled in this short period of time. Therefore, his current demeanor is very peaceful. Master Jiayan invited me to go to the next world to exchange ideas on the progress of formations. I didn't expect that I would be able to discuss the path with Master Jiayan one day. It's all thanks to Miss Edisha. Leda sighed. The little fish swung its tail in the air excitedly, and pink ripples appeared in the air. There is also an explanation for this illusion, but unfortunately, the onlookers around could not see any clues at all. Woo boom boom boom. The train arrived soon. The customers in the waiting room stopped looking at what was going on in the VIP room and turned to their respective ticket windows. Although it was exciting to see a big shot, there were too many big shots at this ticket gate, and it was just one big shot, not Jia Yan himself. They would not have their schedule affected by Edisha coming. It's Master's brother. Both Edisha and Xiao Yu felt the aura. They all knew that it was Jia Yan himself who was pulling the cart. Come up here. After the train stopped, the front end of the huge train was a huge locomotive that was tens of kilometers long and invisible to outsiders. Jia Yan's voice came from inside. Yes. The three of them rushed into the locomotive. There is another universe here, which is directly like a huge sky, and there are many arrangements, but the most eye-catching thing is that there is a towering strong man here. This chapter is not finished yet. Click to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. The giant mosquito was enjoying itself. It didn't look like it was pulling a cart, but rather like it was traveling and resting along the way. Master! Master brother! I've met Lord Jia Yan. The three of them shouted excitedly as they entered. They hadn't been together for a relatively long time, so they couldn't hide their joy at meeting each other. Haha, Leda, your strength has been stagnant for a long time. Why don't you have any thoughts of attacking the territory lord? You also know that it is too difficult to be a domain master, but don't underestimate me. My current strength is based on learning a lot from Miss Edisha. Oh? It looks like you are quite confident. We went over there and practiced. Good. Jia Yan gave Elder Leda face, and first communicated with Leda. Then he turned to the two little guys. In fact, Xiao has always been not far from the trading area. Jia Yan has personally given her guidance several times when he went out, so she doesn't need to care too much. Focusing on Edisha, Jia Yan first let out a light sigh. Good guy, little Edisha, your formations have advanced by leaps and bounds now. You actually have the isolation ability of the formations all over your body. Even I can't see through it. Jia Yan was amazed. If he used his own violence, he would naturally be able to break through Edisha's disguise, but he was not an enemy, so there was no need. Hee, Edisha just wants to show off, and this technique is also useful to you. I will teach it to you in the past. Editha dispersed the formations on her body, and after a burst of light, her stellar strength was clearly visible. There is growth, but not much. After all, her current strength has improved fast enough. If she can improve again in a few years, she will not be a genius, but a peerless evildoer even more evil than Jia Yan. But Jia Yan didn't pay too much attention to Edisha's own strength, but paid attention to her formation progress, savored the formation genes on her body, and couldn't help but gasp. Are you researching a new genetic advancement method yourself? Well, but this method is only suitable for myself. It is impossible for others to learn it. It is impossible to transform atom one by one without the powerful computing power of oneself, and outsiders cannot help. Jia Yan felt a little sorry. After Edisha dispelled her concealment, as a low-level domain master, he could naturally see through the changes in her body at a glance. The new array gene shocked him. Even if Edisha's talent had the effect of being transformed into a perfect gene, she would probably have reached the end of the domain lord level in the future, and the chance of advancing to the lower level of a domain lord would be slim. But now, she has added another layer of transformation herself. The potential is suddenly no longer the same. There will definitely be a figure of the lower level of the territory lord. If you go up higher, I dare not comment, because Jia Yan himself is not above the lower level of the territory lord. In fact, today's Edisha formation has long been unpredictable, and coupled with her powerful computing power, Jia Yan believes that even if she is allowed to fight against a domain lord level master, she will not necessarily lose. Who would have thought that the original artificial intelligence, following Jia Yan's role in conquering the world, would reach where it is now? Let's start first, we'll go over there and talk. Jia Yan saw that the train was almost full of passengers and said, "This chapter is not finished yet, click to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito." The three of them saw Jia Yan press a button in the space, and the train made a classic train whistle. The melodious sound reminded the passengers behind that the train was about to leave. The farewellers left the platform, and the rushers got on. Car. Besides. The train moved slowly, embarking on a journey deep into subspace. Jia Yan concentrated on dealing with the subspace passage. Even though he has been doing this for decades, he never takes it too lightly. It's one thing to be familiar with the road, but it's another thing to be in awe of subspace. Every time he passed through the extremely deep subspace region, Jia Yan would marvel at the magic of creation. The secret of subspace was a huge mystery that he would never be able to crack. However, thinking of the many treasures and legends in the other world, he was also a little jealous. If he had a chance to get some of them, he might be able to solve the mystery of the subspace. It seems that Mr. Jia Yan's strength has improved quite a lot. Leda was beside him, communicating with Edisha. "Well, my master's brother has made great progress. Don't forget, my master's brother is extremely talented." Edisha puffed up her small breasts and felt very proud. Even now, she still talks about Jia Yan and protects him very much. "Yeah, the master is very good." The little pink fish showed the same expression. Leda was helpless. These two little brats couldn't communicate with each other. He was surprised by Jia Yan's strength, which was even more unfathomable than the last time they met. He has reached the middle level of the galaxy. Although it is still extremely far away from the lower level of the territory lord, he can vaguely see the difference in strength at that level. Compared to the last time they met, Jia Yan was obviously stronger. However, the difference in strength between the lower level territory lord and the lower level territory lord is sometimes very subtle. It is difficult for him to judge how much Jia Yan has improved. And following Jia Yan's previous rhetoric, there is a 9-9 ladder to heaven among the lower levels of territory lords. Each level of the ladder is a completely different perception and progress. It may happen that there are existences at similar levels on the ladder, and the weak will defeat or even kill the strong, but if the gap is too large, it will be impossible to kill them. Maybe Jia Yan is no longer an ordinary ladder master? Leda thought. But he didn't know that Jia Yan had already gotten rid of the ordinary ladder master level and reached the mid-level ladder strength. The trip was smooth. It didn't take long for them to arrive at the other world, which was far beyond imagination. "Oh, I've come here more than once, but this time I came here, it still shocked me." Leda got out of the train and looked around. His expression was like Mr. Lu entering the Grand View Garden. "Wow, it's so big. The little pink fish was amazed as if it was the first time. Adisha also nodded. Hey, someone used my formation clone? It's this kid, hee, I'll meet him next time I have a chance. Adisha quickly felt that someone in the other world had used her formation clone. But she had no intention of meeting that boy so early. After all, he was just a clone of her. This chapter is not finished yet. Click to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. If she met, she might have to give the junior a meeting gift or something. At least she would have to help him recharge the ring, right? Adisha didn't want that trouble. You three are here. I've met Senior Haitian. Everyone followed Jia Yan to the headquarters of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, where they saw Haitian, Huasiang and others. These few people are relatively close to Jia Yan in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, and they consider themselves Jia Yan's subordinates when they go out. Of course, Haitian is the exception. This top expert cannot be subordinate to anyone. Now in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, it is just a way to hide his identity as a ticket holder. However, hiding is not in vain, and he has to help the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce from time to time. Make an effort. Senior, if you are generous, how about we discuss the truth together? Okay. Haitian knew that Jia Yan was going to communicate and practice with Adisha and others, and he was eager to do so. Entering the place of cultivation retreat, everyone quickly entered the state. Adisha, can you tell me the principle of your formation clone? I see, Master Brother wants to learn that. Okay, Adisha will tell you. A sudden realization dawned on Adisha. It's natural that Jia Yan would want to learn that kind of skill. After all, it was a composite technique of many of Adisha's great array techniques, and she felt that Jia Yan would definitely be interested. But she immediately said, Brother Master, I don't guarantee that you can learn it. It's very difficult. Something that even Adisha said was difficult. Jia Yan shook his head, if you really can't learn it, forget it. I just want to learn from it. Adisha was quick to blurt out her skills and hold nothing back. But at first, Xiao Yu listened with great interest. Halfway through, she became dizzy and ran to chat with Hai Tian. The same is true for Hai Tian. He didn't know much about the cultivation methods of Zhan Dao and Yin Yang Dao. This time, he was still wondering why Jia Yan was willing to bring him, an outsider, to peep at their cultivation theory. But after listening to it, he became confused. I know that I can't learn anything secretly, and I can't even do targeted research on how to deal with it. What the hell are those countless mathematical formulas? What the hell? He was also happy to chat with Xiao Yu and take a look at the talent of this disciple who had been praised by Jia Yandu. Unexpectedly, Xiao Yu was not good at mathematics and her formation skills were mediocre, but in terms of cultivation, she was quite a genius. Especially with the unique blessing of Yin and Yang Dao, her talent was best displayed. Soon Hai Tian also became dignified. Get up and formally teach this young talent. As for Leda, because of his good formation ability, although his talent is very ordinary, he has been communicating with Adisha all these years, which is actually easier than Jia Yan. Wait a minute, what is that Heyman formula you're talking about? It's a mathematical equation, a hypothesis made by a genius mathematician more than 13,000 years ago. He was able to solve a simple equation of the sum of 500 million cubes, with just over 50,000 lines of arithmetic formula. Isn't it useful? More than 50,000 lines of mathematical formulas, very simple? Jia Yan felt like his mouth was twitching, but for him, his memory was already good. He had to bite the bullet and look up the mathematical formulas on the internet. It was quite difficult to search because there were so few people studying this stuff. This chapter is not finished yet. Click to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. After reading it, okay, let's continue. Atisha continued to speak, and Jia Yan continued to listen. It took a full 7 or 8 days for Jia Yan to learn the so-called formation method of cloning. It's hard, but it's not too much of a problem for me. Jia Yan only felt a headache. If it were another master of the lower level of Domain Lord, I am afraid that they would not be able to learn it at all. Not to mention the limitations of array genes and yin and yang dao, just the huge amount of memory, the extensive use of mathematical equations, and more importantly, the precise requirements for stable energy output will probably block countless masters from the lower realms of domain masters. And Jia Yan is very suitable for use. I'll give it a try. I'm afraid it will take about a month. I'll give you some of my recent cultivation experience. You can study it? Okay. Jia Yan casually gave his cultivation experience to Atisha and Leda. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3330. Even though Atisha has grown up to be able to teach Jia Yan, she is still at the disciple level when it comes to practicing the 8 classics, and there are so many things she can learn from Jia Yan. Everyone performed their duties and began the cultivation process that lasted for more than a month. Jia Yan is working hard because he feels a hint of crisis. The arrival of those masters was an invisible pressure on him. He is also eager to compete for the so-called admission ticket and the so-called promotion opportunity. So he has to work hard. Your research on formations is already far ahead of mine. Atisha, your formation cultivation skills are very broad and profound. Haha, it's good to be helpful to my master brother. No need to thank Atisha. For a month, nothing happened in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. However, external and internal pressure is brewing, and there is a hint that something big is about to happen. No event or danger comes without warning. Including earthquakes, stellar radiation, and any natural and man-made disasters, there must be a process, and these processes will more or less evolve into manifestations. The appearance in Xi'an City is very simple, but people's hearts have changed a bit. For example, people on the streets no longer talk about gossip, but everyone mysteriously tells their relatives and friends about the upcoming dangers. Another example is the middle and low-end family forces, all members are on standby. As for where they got the information, no one could tell the reason. In short, they all came to this conclusion from various channels and analysis. Perhaps it was because of the unprecedented battle between the strongest men a few months ago that it aroused everyone's worries. After all, Suankan's name is not justified. In the early years, no one believed that a Chamber of Commerce force could manage the situation it has today. Just a businessman, how can he expand his territory and become a country? Totally impossible. The prestige of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has been formed over the years, but there is still a fundamental gap for people to completely trust and rely on him. This is psychological. No one will take the superficial performance of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce into the psychological level. In other words, they have put together the various advantages of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, and now there is no large-scale disunity. In short, when Jia Yan walked out of the training room, he saw such a scene. Sir, I'm afraid that in addition to the signs, there are some secret hands that are causing trouble with the morale inside and outside Xi'an City. Hua Xiang asked worriedly, should we intervene? No need. After listening to Hua Xiang's description of the recent situation, Jia Yan shook his head non-committally. The current crisis is real. If anyone loses confidence in the Chamber of Commerce or even moves their home because of this, we don't have to worry about it. We will just let them go and see if they don't regret it in the future. That's true. Hua Xiang also nodded. Everyone knows that the territory of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is not peaceful. The territory is too small, and the enemies it faces are too powerful. It may be a precarious outcome. Rationally speaking, the only thing to do is to leave such a place, but the result is exactly the opposite. In this place where people are panicked, the daily net inflow of people is still huge. In fact, the territory ruled by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is a truly new atmosphere for the residents of Dynasty Island. It can even be called paradise. It has a lot of high technology, extremely convenient living conditions, unheard of entertainment methods, and many unique development attractions that make people forget to leave. Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has made everything you want, and even things you can't think of, Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has considered. In a place with such high welfare, high quality of life, and high popularity, would people choose to leave because they are about to face disaster? At this time, emotion trumps reason, at least for many people. So putting this matter aside, there is another thing I asked you before retreating. Are you ready? It's done, sir. The things you want are really a headache. I even sent out territory lord level beings to get a lot of the supplies. This also cost a territory lord level person. The fragrance of flowers spits bitter water. Jia Yan comforted her as much as possible and allowed Huasiang to give the deceased territory lord level martyr the title and family status. Huasiang stopped fighting for anything. After arranging all this, Jia Yan said goodbye to the extremely busy Huasiang and went to the material storage area by himself. Edisha and the others are still in seclusion. As the first person to successfully practice the array skills given by Edisha, Jia Yan's purpose of going out this time is closely related to practice. The whole crisis of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is due to the fact that the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is not strong enough. Just a few of the lower-level territory lords, and the 6 major partners were only superficially powerful members of the Chamber of Commerce, and had long stopped taking action on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce. Therefore, in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, the only lower-level domain lords who can participate in the battle are Jia Yan himself and Haitian, which is a bit stretched for the current situation. If it weren't for the strength of both of them being obvious to all, it might have been unsustainable. I hope these array materials I acquired will be useful. Jia Yan looked at the large amount of array materials in front of him with great anticipation. It is impossible for a simple cultivation path to make up for the gap of thousands of years of cultivation. Jia Yan's superficial strength may not be too different, but in terms of life experience and the details of the battle process, he is far behind. If he really wants to fight with those sophisticated and scheming people, it may be difficult to win. This is not what he sees on the surface. Strength is so simple, but something deep inside. After so many years, Jia Yan has gradually felt the gap. When you meet someone who is strong enough to crush you, their skills and experience may not be of much use, but when you encounter someone who can barely fight you, this kind of thing will be greatly reflected, as long as the other party can barely fight against Jia Yan. They can slowly use their experience and skills to find Jia Yan's flaws. In terms of flexible and changeable moves, Jia Yan prides himself on being pretty good, but compared to a group of old immortals, he is definitely far behind. Since there was no way to make up for the time gap, Jia Yan could only think of another way. If you can't increase your age in a short time, then the absolute gap will be widened, big enough to crush. This is Jia Yan's purpose. Almost all of the formations I have studied recently do not learn any fancy things, but only focus everything on attack. I have seen Aditha's array skills, and they are very likely to be developed. And unlike my clones, after they are created, they do not need to occupy my mental power. This shows that if a large number of them are formed, the formation clone can even fight side by side with me. This only consumes the energy and energy before the war, but it has almost no big impact on me during the war. Of course, there must be an upper limit to this matter, and the same even I don't know what kind of impact mental power will have when fighting at close range. In short, it cannot increase infinitely, so I will temporarily set the number at 10. There are 10 clones to help him fight. Perhaps because of their inexperience, the combat effectiveness of these clones may not be too high. But after the number makes up for it, the effect may surprise Jia Yan. Buzz. A piece of formation material was picked up by Jia Yan and entered his newly opened training room. Don't disturb Edisha and the others. After entering the training room, Jia Yan still has to study. Simply copying Edisha's technology is not advisable. Everyone has their own skills, and everyone has different directions. What Edisha taught Jia Yan was just a certain idea. A large number of mathematical models are just tools during the manufacturing process. Jia Yan has already mastered it. The basic principle is that it is not too difficult to modify. After all, he is the originator of the formation. It is impossible that after his technology was improved beyond recognition by Edisha, he could not even follow Edisha's theory. Facts have proved that Jia Yan is still the talented evolutionary beast genius. If he really wants to study it, the theory of catching up with Edisha is more than enough. Well, if this formula is transferred in this way, it can have unexpected effects. Haha, it seems that Edisha is still the same. Although there are a lot of creative developments, most of them are borrowed from the past. With examples and ideas, it is really difficult for her to create her own new ideas, because she is still in the intellectual way of thinking. It is different for me. My life is almost all created by myself. Many of my ideas are completely unconstrained. I had this idea in mind when I heard Edisha explain it to me, but I didn't expect that when I try it now, it really works. With the creative inspiration coming, Jia Yan made several improvements in succession, some were successful and some were failures. Overall, he made significant improvements to his idea of the array avatar. This kind of formation body. After researching the first rough blueprint, Jia Yan was startled when he looked at the draft of the blueprint he had listed with materials. This seems. He was a little surprised for a moment, and felt a certain joy, and even had an impulse. Because he studied and turned a large amount of work from theory into reality, he immediately understood it. The problem of slow update of new chapters has finally been solved with an app that can change the source. Download the Huanyuan app source changing app here and view the latest chapters of this book on multiple sites at the same time. This can be used on more than just your own array clone. If more rigorous improvements are made, it seems possible. Can it be used to adjust my own genes? This is really unintentional. Jia Yan was caught between a certain expectation and impulse, and he wished he could immediately carry out his own genetic adjustment. But he endured it. After so many years, a large number of formation genetic adjustment geniuses were born in his hands, and he also accumulated countless experiences, but he endured them all one by one and did not do anything to his body. Because the body of a late-level domain lord is already too perfect. In addition, he himself is a race of evolved beasts whose genes have evolved over time and become perfect. The risk of going under the knife is really too great. The several solutions discovered today have great benefits when applied to Jia Yan's body. They may be able to successfully adjust the body's genes. But he won't be in a hurry. Once you get anxious, it may lead to lifelong regrets. Genetic surgery is a narrow escape for any expert. If he wants to maximize safety, he must do perfect research before that. Another example is the impulsive behavior when he was weak, which is indeed not what a strong man like him should do. Jia Yan has been impulsive too many times in the past, which may be the reason for his rapid promotion, but people cannot always be impulsive, and luck cannot always be with Jia Yan. Even if he fails once, his life will be over. It just so happens that the manufacturing process of the formation Dao clone is my research and improvement process, and it is also a new opportunity. Maybe next time I quickly become stronger, it will fall in front of me. He suddenly had more energy to create the formation clone in front of him. Just do what comes to mind. Dynasty. Emperor, there are not many changes in the recent war, so you can rest assured. Well, I'm relieved now, but the enemy troops not far from the capital still make me uneasy. What's the reaction from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce? Are there any signs of sending troops to support? No, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce was suspected of being invaded by the enemy a few days ago. A big battle broke out near Xiancheng. Jia Yan was worthy of being the leader of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. He repelled several enemies by himself. The master-level master seems to have been frightened by this battle and has not done much so far, so, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is afraid that they will not help my dynasty for the time being. Alas, this Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, contrary to what was promised, actually stood by and watched. The land of Xiancheng should not have been handed over to them in the first place. In the meeting hall within the imperial city, several ministers were reporting recent affairs to the emperor. It is worth mentioning that the emperor of the current dynasty has changed again. The previous emperor, who was relatively mediocre, wanted to escape in the middle of the night because the enemy troops were approaching the city. He was caught on the spot by several ministers. The ministers deposed the emperor as unworthy of the throne, and arranged for the current one to be replaced. The new emperor did have his own drive, but the reason he came to the throne was that the ministers and relatives of the emperor wanted to establish a new puppet. It can be said that he had nowhere to use his power. After hitting stones several times, his overall momentum has also plummeted. Recently, he has only asked about some important matters, and then he has nothing to do and does not express any opinions of his own. The Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is just a traitor and traitor. They are no different from the people who invaded our dynasty. When our dynasty regains its mountains and rivers, we will definitely make this Galaxy Chamber of Commerce look good. While the ministers and the new emperor were doing nothing and talking about some obscure topics, a hearty and young voice came from the side of the hall. Everyone looked around, a little surprised and uncertain. It turns out that the speaker is a young man with human appearance, but he is extremely tall and has reached more than 10,000 kilometers. Even within the imperial family with giant blood, he is a unique existence. He is the prince of the imperial dynasty. He is also the eldest son of the new emperor. Not only is he the crown prince, he is also rated as the most likely future royal heir to be a great emperor. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3331. Your Majesty, this is not an unreasonable statement. Even though the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has some objections, it is not as unreasonable as the enemy chieftains. A minister looked around and quickly stepped forward to persuade him in a low voice. Today's Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is no longer the nameless Chamber of Commerce that was under the jurisdiction of the dynasty, and the dynasty is no longer the dynasty that rules a large area of islands and land. The roles and relationship between the two parties are more like that of collaborators, rather than that of a superior or subordinate. If one dares to speak ill of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, the Crown Prince will be easily attacked and may even lose his status as Crown Prince. Even the Emperor has been replaced by several dynasties, so such a thing is not impossible. Huh, you're just a traitor and a traitor. Why are you so open and protective, Prime Minister? The minister was speechless for a while. Everyone just looked at the young prince with a smile. This prince has a fiery personality and temper, but he also has a true heart for serving the public. If he is given time and opportunities to grow, he might become a wise king. But the problem is that he doesn't have time. If you don't know how to be careful in your words and deeds, there is no room for survival in today's dynasty. It will not take too long for the prince to fall. Sure enough, the new emperor, who was sitting on the throne, started to look strange. The entire dynasty is counting on the force and financial support of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, but you kid actually wants to disrupt it? I'll fix you up later. Prince, you are too impulsive today. Your father must have been quite angry with you. In the corridor of the lower court, a minister next to the prince suddenly approached him and whispered. The face of the prince, who is tens of thousands of kilometers away, flashed with cold light. I know it without you having to tell me, but if I don't speak out now, my chances of speaking out will be less and less in the future. As for my father's affairs, you don't have to worry. I will go to him personally to explain. Prince, haven't you decided to take action yet? What are you doing? My imperial family has experienced a lot of quarrels between fathers and sons over the tens of thousands of years. Do you think you can sway me with such evil words? Or do you want to control me? Don't dare. The close minister stepped aside with an expressionless expression. There was just a smile hanging on the corner of his mouth that he couldn't get rid of. The prince also clearly saw his expression, and a nameless anger surged in his heart, but it was hard to break out. He couldn't say that this was the spy he had found to help him ascend the throne, right? If he was exposed, he himself would be dead. A few years ago, the former emperor actually wanted to move out of the capital. If he moved out, my father and son would not be able to sit in this position one day. But his current existence is still a threat. What the prince wanted to do was also very simple. In addition to ascending to power as quickly as possible, he also wants to get rid of the previous emperor. It is best to eliminate the direct lineage there as well. Otherwise, their lineage will be subject to more threats and their status will be unstable. The imperial family has frequently changed people over the years. Although it seems that the loss of power and position has not been too serious, the internal friction and status have already been huge. Many ministers are still thinking about the former emperor, and some are discussing that the current emperor does not have enough blood, such as purity, etc., which made the current emperor and the prince's family quite angry. The royal family has a history of internal strife that goes back tens of thousands of years. Under the protection of their founders, they rarely encountered serious foreign invasions, so they gradually evolved into a state of internal strife for those who are good at it, and external strife for those who are outsiders today, nothing more. It is just an evolution of the previous tradition. It's just different from the previous internal struggles of the royal family. The deterrent power of the founding ancestors at this time has been greatly reduced. In addition, the power of the powerful ministers has also been greatly exceeded before. Hundreds of thousands of enemy troops are stationed outside the capital. Under internal and external difficulties, this member of the royal family, it can be said that it is very unwise to still want to fight internally to seize power. But do you want them to give up their struggle for power? Impossible. If you don't take it away, you will never recover. This is especially true for the prince's family, because today's emperors all come to power through dishonest means, and the prince's family is even more on pins and needles. I wish that this family's status was stable, and then the prince would be in power soon. Take the stage today. This led them to take desperate risks and do many shady things behind the scenes. Although the prince himself is an ambitious person, his brain is used on how to fight for power and management status, so that will be the case in this life. The problem of slow update of new chapters has finally been solved with an app that can change sources. Download the Spuin Source Change app here and view the latest chapters of this book on multiple sites at the same time. By the way, didn't the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce send a few high-level officials to visit me recently? If there is a chance, let their person in charge come to my place. Yes. The close minister still responded calmly and calmly. Not long after, the ministers left the imperial city. In the mansion outside, he met the communication contact from the alliance. The chess pieces of the imperial dynasty have been arranged. If you want to take action, you can make arrangements as soon as possible. As for the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, you can also use tricks to create a wedge. This is my suggestion. This close minister changed his previous appearance of the old god and showed himself to be shrewd and capable. The paper he took out was taken over by a person with unfathomable strength. This plan is good, but whether it can be implemented or not depends on the specific arrangements made by us and the staff. If it can be implemented, I will not leave out anything I promised you. Thank you, sir. The near minister smiled happily. Time has passed, and the original dynasty has changed drastically. It is like a quagmire. There are too many characters like him around the emperor and the prince. Even the ministers are not clean inside and are riddled with holes, which is not enough to describe the current dynasty. Of course, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce will not miss these things. Playing Spy Wars is also something that is extremely sophisticated for scientific and technological civilization. Oh! It seems that the prince's people are planning to make some small moves. In the dynasty, several residents who seemed to be living like ordinary people learned about this news from technological equipment. But they didn't make too many abnormalities. Instead, they used various intelligence from the intelligence department and combined it to analyze the whole story. By the time all of this was put together and the final conclusion was reached and handed over to Jia Yan, it was already the afternoon of the second day. Did something happen again in the imperial dynasty? When Jia Yan received this information, he felt very speechless. It is true that the country is about to perish. Something was going to happen to this dynasty every 3 days. He couldn't even remember how many emperors he had changed during the time he had been in contact with the dynasty. At this moment, the imperial family is still at war with itself, fighting to the death. The previous emperor should have been under house arrest, but the intelligence stated that it seemed that the prince wanted to take action, and he was also prepared to deal with the previous emperor once and for all. After dealing with the previous emperor, he would immediately attack the branch of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Are you planning to take action against our Galaxy Chamber of Commerce capital branch again? Are the employees there provoking you? They are targeting you again and again. Jia Yan was speechless in many places. In particular, he felt that the people in this dynasty were really screwed up. The enemy army is camped more than 100 million kilometers away from the imperial capital, and they are still fighting among themselves. Why can't we work together to drive the enemy away? It's a pity. It's not that they don't have this kind of rational thinking. It's just that in many cases, it's because of the coincidence of God and God that they get to this point. Not only the dynasty, but also in the history of the earth, there have been countless stories that can be explained with great power. War is actually forced by circumstances. Lord Jia Yan, my opinion is to help the dynasty quell this incident. The dynasty cannot be in chaos. Although we have a verbal agreement with the enemy, this matter has nothing to do with our agreement. If you want to disturb the dynasty, you are taking the initiative to break the agreement. Hua Xiang spoke from the side. Yes, the dynasty cannot be disrupted for the time being. Although they are incompetent, they are also a good shield. Jia Yan nodded. Dynasty. As a huge shield, it is very useful to the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Moreover, if the dynasty fails, the enemies will not attack Jia Yan and the others as agreed, but what will happen to the future funds of the Silver Chamber of Commerce? Because the current dynasty is the main product dumping ground for the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. If it falls, the enemy will surely be able to produce and sell its own products. The Galaxy Chamber of Commerce will lose its largest employer and will be greatly weakened sooner or later. The question now is how we take action, what kind of combat power we send, and what kind of explanations we give to the three alliances. I need a reason. Jia Yan and Hua Xiang reached a consensus. Jia Yan finally managed to make his enemies think of him as a stupid young man, or a young man with little threat but good talent. He was not sure if he would be too radical, whether his enemies would redirect their attention to on oneself. Do you want a reason? Well, let me arrange some manpower. Hua Xiang belongs to the upper echelons of the divine realm. She has held the position of goddess emperor for many years. It can be said that she is very good at dealing with similar incidents. The Great Spirit Realm generally adopts a strict defense strategy when dealing with the outside world, but that is just an ordinary situation. Under more special circumstances, and in certain situations that require their full strength, it can be said that it is normal to take some political actions. As a goddess emperor, Huaxiang is definitely better than Jia Yan in this regard. Then I'll leave it to you. Jia Yan knew that there was a specialization in the art, so he immediately nodded in agreement. Huaxiang quickly left the office. Now she is deeply tied to Jia Yan, a relationship in which both prosper and suffer. So she will not resist Jia Yan's orders, even if she is asked to do something less honorable. Yes, our Chamber of Commerce needs your efforts, thank you. In fact, the method is very simple. That is to ask some people in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce to sacrifice their lives. On the second day, before they had time to start teaching, the prince's group heard a situation that surprised them extremely. The most important person responsible for contacting the prince's manpower in the entire capital, that is, a right-hand man, actually killed a middle-level manager from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce in front of many guests. This news shocked the prince and others to their cores, and it took them a long time to react. Damn it, someone go check on the situation. I'm sure this is something created by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce themselves. Someone go check on the situation for me. In addition, bring me a gift of condolences and explain clearly that we are not involved in this matter. In any case, no matter how overconfident the people on the prince's side are, they cannot really think that the prince's gang members alone can deal with the entire Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. If the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce was so easy to deal with, the original dynasty and the current enemy coalition would not be helpless against the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. So he immediately made it clear that whether the right-hand man really killed a senior member of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce on purpose or was framed, he needed to take a stand immediately. If he was slow to express his position on this matter, the Emperor's group of people, who were already dissatisfied with him, would definitely make him roll off the Crown Prince's seat immediately. Not to mention becoming a great treasure, even if you want to live a decent life, it will become extremely difficult. Prince, please don't be impatient. The clothes minister came to the prince, but his posture was different from the previous one. He was extremely solemn now. He knew that the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce had used some unknown method to find out about the plan that he and others were about to carry out, and it was such a killer move as soon as he made it. The prince cannot fall yet. If he falls, not to mention that the arrangement of their coalition forces here will be burned to the ground, he, the person who is specifically responsible for the prince, will have to say goodbye to his future. He cannot allow this, and the opportunity to climb up in the future will never be lost. If you have anything to say, just say it, you spy. The prince lowered his head violently. The tall giant leaned over and looked at people with a coercive look, which still caused endless pressure on this close minister. Prince, if you believe me, please give me some time in advance. I will give you an answer and some suggestions in a moment. Don't be impulsive again. This close minister suddenly entered his office. After a long time, when the prince felt extremely uncomfortable and thought that this close minister could not find a good solution, he saw the office door creaking open. Your Majesty, things have turned around. I have invited some friends who specialize in these things to come here. Please give them certain status and rights, otherwise I will not be able to help you. Friend. Jia Yan, who was far away in Xiancheng, was still unaware of the many changes that had taken place on the prince's side. But he knew very well that the shaky dynasty was related to the royal family's inaction, or incompetence. It shouldn't be said that it's related, but it should be said that this royal family is really a bunch of trash. C0M. Including the sick man on the stage. Secondly, we must add that the so-called prince and others are completely different from the people in high positions imagined by Jia Yan. No wonder, there are so many masters in the galaxy, but few are descendants of the royal family. The dynasties in this world are a good proof. If a force is controlled by a family for a long time, it can be said that its demise is imminent. Jia Yan sighed. In fact, he could not guarantee whether the dynasty would immediately perish in the coming days. Because the founder is still there. Lord Jia Yan, there is new news coming from the capital. Just when Jia Yan thought that it would be difficult for the princes in the capital to solve the matter, Hua Xiang came to his office again with important communication contents. Huh? Is there anyone capable of doing this as a prince? When Jia Yan saw the contents of the information, he felt strange. Remember the website address of this website, for easy reading next time, or enter in Baidu to enter the site. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3332. The prince's action is very simple, just wait and see what happens. The Galaxy Chamber of Commerce was naturally very angry and questioned, and even dispatched the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's ambassador to the imperial court to express a solemn protest to the emperor. Faced with this change in the situation, the dynasty was obviously a little surprised. On the one hand, they tried their best to appease the ambassador of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce who came to investigate. On the other hand, they sent a large number of troops to conduct a large-scale investigation across the entire capital, making sure to find the real culprit who killed and injured the people of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. This incident has also affected the public sentiment in the current imperial capital to a certain extent. Everyone has brains, and they live a life in this dangerous capital. A large part of the credit is due to the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's ability to divert some of the enemy's attention from behind. Without the support of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, the current imperial capital might have been occupied by the enemy. However, now that members of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce have been killed, the friendly relations between the two parties have been cast into a haze. Rumors have begun to spread throughout the imperial capital. It is said that the enemy army stationed far away from the imperial capital seems to be ready to take advantage of this situation. Wave will seize the capital of the dynasty. If the city is captured, at least half of the residents inside will be killed or injured, and the city may even be massacred. Those overseas people have done this kind of thing more than once when they came to their dynasty area. Although they restrained themselves a lot in the later period, the capital city blocked them for many years. After the city was broken, the enemy army did not massacre the city, and they felt that they were sorry for what they had created over the years. Bad name. Many people dragged their families and fled toward the distance of the capital that day. However, after some people did this, the capital, sensing that something was wrong, immediately ordered the city gates to be closed, and all entrances and exits required proof of civility. Faced with such a situation, the emperor was also panicked. May I ask the ambassador if there is any evidence to prove that this matter is related to the prince? After the ambassador found the emperor and exchanged a few pleasantries, he directly pointed out that there was something wrong with the current prince. The emperor is about to show his filial piety. It has nothing to do with the prince. Even if it has something to do with the prince, it has nothing to do with him, the emperor. The emperor wants to be a good emperor, or at least he wants to be a better being than the previous short-lived emperors. A character who can ascend the throne at such a time cannot fail to turn the tide on his own ambition. However, after becoming the daimyo, he found that he was just a puppet used by the ministers to control their power, and the emperor's orders could not leave the imperial city. There is another thing that he is even more aware of, and that is that his son, the prince, is actually an extremely radical person who has always spoken unfriendly words towards the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Now that something really happened to the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, even he was convinced that there was something wrong with his son. But even if he is determined in his heart, what can he do if he doesn't protect his son? Will the prince be surrendered? Impossible. In that case, he may not even be able to keep the throne, because the prince is an important person in the country. Whether he likes it or not is another matter. If he, an emperor with a low status, dares to kill the prince, if he confesses to him, maybe those ministers will have him dethroned on certain charges later. So there was no way he would let this go. The ambassador dares to speak directly, and he will naturally have relevant evidence in his hand, but the ambassador of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce was the local master who assisted Jia Yan when his ape clone went to the imperial capital. Nowadays, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is in full bloom. Many experts and senior officials have been appointed by local people. This has also made many people and middle and low-level officials in the dynasty have a sharp increase in their favorability towards the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. But if this matter is difficult for you to handle, we, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, can use our own methods to deal with it. We only need the Emperor's consent and we can take action. The ambassador's meaning is simple. It is time for the Emperor to make his own judgment. If the prince can be sold, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce will no longer have anything to do with the matter. But if it continues to protect the prince, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's next attitude will not be to simply pursue the main person responsible. After all, there is a problem in your imperial city. No matter what, someone in your imperial city is hostile to the people of their Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, and your dynasty's protection is not good. This is your fault. This matter, let me think about this matter again, and I will give you an answer tomorrow, okay? Of course. The ambassador awaits the good news from His Majesty the Emperor. The ambassador sneered, then stood up and left. After he left, the Emperor seemed to have lost all his strength and sat dejectedly on the dragon throne. The good-looking giant royal family now looks like they have aged dozens of years and are extremely powerless. Emperor, this ambassador of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is too arrogant. Why don't we continue to fight and fall out with the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce? A person who had watched the whole process in the corner came out and came to the Emperor to speak. Bold, what kind of madman are you? How dare you speak nonsense here? That's right. Is the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce going to fall out with us as soon as we say it? Who are you? The visitor smiled calmly and looked at the ministers surrounding him. Huh? Is it you? Aren't you already dead? The faces of a group of people changed wildly. This group of ministers had already accompanied the Emperor in the main hall to receive the visiting ambassador of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. They also knew that the ambassador must have come to ask questions about this matter. They could not speak without speaking. Therefore, after a few tricks against the Emperor beforehand, no one present said anything to help the Emperor when the ambassador asked questions. The Emperor spoke. But now that the ambassador has left, they have an extremely relaxed attitude towards their Emperor. The Emperor takes the blame, and they share the rights afterwards. But this sudden arrival made them tremble violently. In this dynasty, it is not that there were no capable ministers in the past, but the abilities of capable ministers were too strong, and generally they were too different from the main political groups of the now decadent dynasty. As a result, once this group appeared, they would be under the influence of the dynasty. Attacks by ministers. This man was one of them, and because he was so capable, he almost became the Emperor's right-hand man, and even the position of Prime Minister was almost given to him. If this person were to be in power together with the relatively clear old Prime Minister, then the atmosphere of the entire dynasty might be greatly changed. The problem is that there are too many people who don't want to change. They came up with an unfounded crime and sued this person to the imperial palace. As a result, the original emperor became enemies with his ministers because of this matter. After a lot of open and secret fighting, the ending was like this. An important official of the empire was sent into exile, but was died by bandits on the way. The emperor himself was deposed by the ministers not long after this incident, and the current emperor came to power. So, how could everyone not be shocked when they saw this person appear? The emperor seemed not to have seen this person. He looked blankly at the ministers around him. One or two of them had extremely shocked faces, and then looked at the current emperor, as if he suddenly understood something. "Emperor, did you bring this one back? This officer is a disaster." "You say it's a disaster, but it's not a disaster? You know best how what happened in the first place. Now do you want to go to court with this person, or do you want to formally oppose my royal family?" When the emperor said these words, a wave of energy surged in the center of the distant imperial city behind him. This force was so majestic and astonishing that it impacted all the ministers in the palace like an overwhelming force. Even a subdivisional being couldn't help but take a few steps back. They all looked ugly. People with such strength would not think twice except for the existence that the royal family relies on most, Kaizu. Kaizu takes action. You must know that Kaizu has stopped taking action in recent days, or in recent years. Even when the dynasty was besieged last time, Kaizu did not take action. Many people speculate that the old founder may have passed away in these days. However, today's burst of power made them deny this view. Maybe Kaizu is old, but his strength is still there, and he is not dead. As the patron saint of the dynasty, the name of the founder was like thunder. When the many ministers present felt this power, they were like eggplants with frost, and they stopped. "How? Do you still want this Gene's life?" "No. I don't dare. I will abide by the Emperor's orders, but the matter of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce." "Don't worry, if the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce presses hard, the founder will definitely talk to Jia Yan." When the emperor opened his mouth, he brought out his reputation as the founder, and no one present dared to refute. The existence of the founder is a nuclear-level deterrent to the royal family. Although against the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, Kaizu's deterrence will be a bit worse. After all, the last time Kaizu personally took action, he couldn't keep President Jia Yan. But against others, even those forces from the mainland, Kaizu is I've never been shy. This time the enemy was approaching. Kaizu had not taken action several times before, so he must have had some physical problems. But now that he appears again, either his physical problem has improved, or his body may not be able to suppress it anymore. Instead of dying alone, it is better to go out and harvest. As for the actual reason, it is unknown. "Kaizu, your body. It doesn't matter, it's been like this for so many years, now I can hold on for a while." Deep in the imperial city, the extremely old giant looked at the emperor who was not young in front of him. For a moment, he overlapped with many emperors of the dynasty that he had seen. "Alas, I'm getting older, and I have presbyopia." Kaizu sighed. He didn't really see the shadows of those emperors, but he had an association with them. Many royal families and many emperors are the meaning of existence to Kaizu. He started his army at a young age and then forcibly created the current dynasty. However, he was not willing to become an emperor, so he tried his best and finally found a way to sleep, guarding the dynasty secretly. Thousands of years of time. Over this long period of time, things and people have changed, but his children and grandchildren have multiplied to this day and have been growing up healthy and strong under his protection. However, he couldn't hold on any longer. The founder is now in danger. Just like the dynasty. He knew very well that the day he died, the great dynasty he had built with his own hands would collapse together, and his descendants would disappear into the long river of history one by one. But today, he has looked away. If there is anything you want to do, if you want to issue an order when you assume the position of emperor, then do it. If you don't want to, or you don't even want to do it as emperor, then pass on the position to your family's crown prince. Don't you really want this position? Back to Kaizu, the one in my family who doesn't live up to expectations, now at this time, still wants to fight for power and gain, and even has great hostility towards the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. I don't know who he is like. Who does he look like? He looks like me, haha. I didn't expect that this last generation of princes is so similar to me back then. However, he does fit the role of the last emperor. He is so ambitious and has little ambition. Let him come on. If you are not greedy for this position, you'd better get it done within the next year or two, because, I really can't stand it anymore. Kaizu. When the emperor heard this, he felt his whole body trembled, and his eyes were full of disbelief. You know, everyone is already used to the existence of Kaizu, and even more accustomed to Kaizu's deterrent power. But today, Kaizu actually brought himself in front of him and said that he might not be able to survive in a year or two. The strongest foundation of the entire dynasty for tens of thousands of years is about to disappear? He had an incomparable feeling in his heart, and he couldn't explain what it was like. In fact, he had already seen this when he was summoned by Kaizu last time, because Kaizu's words had already been arranging the funeral arrangements. The royal family's escape route has also been arranged. Many royal families are now scattered, taking root in the entire dynasty area, hiding their names, and some even go to sea. Such operations are done every once in a while, and no one is aware of it. In short, he is like this. Although the emperor still wants to turn the tide, he already knows in his bones that he will either end up being the last emperor, or he will pass on his position and leave a good reputation. There is no other choice. The only thing that needs to be seen is whether he can sit in this position for a few more days. Okay, Kaizu, I will abdicate to my son in a few days. If he wants to fight or do something, let him do it. I am just a mediocre person. Nothing he wanted to do was accomplished. Let's see if he can make some changes in the last days of our imperial family. The emperor smiled bitterly, turned and left. The founder looked behind him at this descendant, who knew how many generations of emperors, and finally slowly closed his eyes. Before his final death, he still had some strength, and perhaps this strength could take away a wave of enemies. It can be regarded as a last effort for the hundreds of millions of people in this dynasty. Ambassador, the emperor's attitude is very suspicious. I wonder if they will make some small moves. A small move? I believe more that they will hand over the prince. The middle-aged man, who was the ambassador of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, returned to his station. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3333. Today's Galaxy Chamber of Commerce cannot allow the ambassador to live in the headquarters building of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, because it is a trading place, and the identity of the ambassador is extremely sensitive, and if the ambassador lives in that kind of place, it will always be a bit informal. So where they live now is a magnificent embassy. It is an embassy specially established by the imperial court for the ambassadors of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Not to mention the incomparable grandeur, there are also complete security measures. As an ambassador, the middle-aged man originally wanted to handle some official business after entering the embassy, but he keenly felt that something was wrong with the atmosphere in the embassy. Assassination. The middle-aged man's eyes became dangerous. A figure walked out of the air behind him. This figure is about 1,000 kilometers high. Although it is at the planet level, it is just a normal small creature in this world. The creature spoke. The ambassador of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce became cold and frosty, slowly turned his head and looked at the person who walked out. The biological master who walked out had a very calm expression. He just looked at the ambassador, and then said unhurriedly. The ambassador's expression finally changed from indifference to slight surprise, and then he shook his head. Before the ambassador finished speaking, another figure suddenly appeared in the embassy office. The creature that walked out was just a creature about 50 kilometers away. It looked like a human and a horse. Its body and forehooves looked very much like the centaur and the mythical beast on Earth. When he saw the centaur monster, the other party showed a hint of joy. Because if the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce had only such a centaur as its backup force, it would be a bit too weak. The momentum of the centaur creature is vague, but as a master, he can feel that the opponent's strength cannot be stronger than himself. This is the embassy where he can take whatever he wants. He felt slightly relieved, but the lion and the rabbit also tried their best, and he didn't show too much on the surface. The newly appeared centaur creature walked out calmly and came to the ambassador's side. The assassin master keenly noticed that the ambassador actually saluted the centaur creature who walked out. He suddenly became slightly more vigilant. You know, although the ambassador's status is not at the top in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, it is said that it can be regarded as a responsible person in this imperial capital. But he actually wants to be respectful to the centaur creature? This shows that the status of centaurs and horses is much higher than the imagined protectors. But why would someone with such a high status in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce protect the ambassador here? Don't understand. It has been running stably for many years. It is comparable to the old version of the book-chasing artifact, and is used by old bookworms, Huan Yuan. The centaur creature asked the ambassador to retreat to the rear, while he blocked the front. Both sides stopped talking. Language. Not enough words to speculate. The two are not friendly characters to begin with, let alone know each other. What's more, this assassin doesn't have much time. It is said that he has the entire Galaxy Chamber of Commerce in his hands, but it is not that there are no masters in the dynasty. The strongest one is the founder, who is sitting in the capital. No matter how confident he is, he does not think that he can do it now. He has the strength to fight against the founder. Boom. The seemingly small figure of this assassin creature is like a huge towering mountain compared with the 50 kilometers tall centaur creature. Once it takes action, it's like the planet crashing into centaurs. But the centaurs were unfazed. The 1,000-kilometer master was obviously taller and heavier than the 50-kilometer master, but he moved with complete agility, and he rushed in front of the centaur creature. Although it was the first time for a 1,000-kilometer expert to attack a creature that was 50 kilometers away, as masters, they had their own skills to deal with any enemy. The dagger stabbed down. What he did was the assassin style, which was simple and agile, but extremely lethal. The eyes of the centaur creature flashed with bursts of brilliance. He is a clone of Jia Yan. Precisely because the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce embassy was so important, Jia Yan thought about it and decided to arrange a backup here. The strength of this clone is not very strong, and the real body does not leave too many means on the clone. But thanks to the fact that he was a later created clone, the structure and principles of the entire body were almost at the pinnacle of the time, so it was extremely comprehensive. In addition to his physical experience and other things, he was relatively close to the current Jia Yan. So he is not weak at all. Compared with the old-fashioned Earth clones and the like, it is many times stronger. Therefore, when the opponent's attack came, this clone, whose superficial strength was no more than the peak of a star, or barely reached the first stage of the galaxy, took a step back without any slowness. This step is just over 100 kilometers away. But more than 100 kilometers is the difference between life and death. The other party stabbed the ground with a dagger, and the office shook slightly. The assassin creature didn't expect to succeed with just one move, so he was just slightly surprised, and then took the next move without a pause. He raised the dagger violently, turning it into a sweeping sweep, sweeping along the ground, directly cutting the man's body into two pieces. The centaur clone's eyebrows did not move, but he narrowed his eyes slightly, then jumped diagonally backward to avoid this move. However, he looked at the direction of the dagger and realized the other party's true purpose. It's an ambassador. The ambassador was watching from the side, and Ben retreated to a corner of the office, but the two of them approached the ambassador's position within a few seconds, and the dagger swept out, just in the direction where the ambassador was standing. This assassin had obviously planned everything long ago. After all, the strange appearance of the centaur creature. Although the superficial power seemed to be far inferior to his own, as an assassin, he naturally chose the safest way to fight. Even after assassinating the ambassador, it is still the safest choice to kill the centaur creatures with all your heart. The centaur clone's face darkened, and he drew the bow and arrow from behind. This bow and arrow are made of materials from the other world, and are of the highest level. It would be quite difficult for people from the other world to gather this kind of top-level material into weapons. Maybe even the current Galaxy Chamber of Commerce would have to deduct a lot of wealth to satisfy a normal being from the other world. But the clone is different from the creatures in the other world. His body is smaller, so he only needs a few tenths or even 1% of the effort of the creatures in the other world to get the same weapon. The power may be weaker, but it is definitely not bad. Too much. When the bow and arrow are released, the situation changes. The assassin felt the threat behind him and shrank. But he didn't pause, preparing to dodge after killing the ambassador. The ambassador was in the corner and couldn't even react. He has obviously reached the stellar level, but under the attack of this professional, he has no ability to react at all. Puff. Just when the assassin was about to successfully kill the ambassador, his dagger couldn't help but turn his head and swipe it behind him. With a ding sound, the arrow feathers behind him were directly swept away. It turned out that the threatening power he felt after the arrow feathers were shot could cause serious injuries to him. Even if he killed the ambassador, he would definitely not be able to escape. It was just a mission, and he didn't want to involve himself in it. The worst case scenario is failure. Jia Yan drew his bow and arrow again. The assassin swept forward with his kick, and the men and horses took off lightly on the spot, shooting backwards. In mid-air, the dagger stabbed again, and the human and horse clones shook their heads again. Recently, the dagger actually passed by, and it looked dangerous. But what makes the assassin even more uncomfortable is that he is obviously more powerful than the opponent, but all these attacks fall into the air. The feeling that every blow misses is a huge blow to his self-confidence. It feels like he is about to run away. Ding. Jia Yan gave him a chance. He raised the bow and arrow directly, and when he was about to use the move, he used the bow body to come into close contact with the assassin's dagger. The assassin was delighted. He is a sub-master level assassin. If given the chance, he would have the courage to assassinate even a guru level master. But this time he came to assassinate an ambassador. His apparent strength was just that of a guy who could not even be compared to the next division. He was protected by a being that was not even in the next division. He thought he would be able to capture him, but the strength of the protector surprised him. And he who even dared to assassinate his master would face the danger of returning home in vain this time. But at this juncture, the protector somehow dared to hand over his weapon head-on. He is a second-level master, and the Tao method he practices is poison. Once they come into contact with his weapons and are eroded by his Taoism, the opponent will be directly absorbed by the poison, and even if they have great abilities, they will not be able to display them. Buzz. I saw that the entire body surface of the centaur creature was blooming with layers of array brilliance. The moment before the toxin entered his body, it was completely blocked by the formation defense. The other party was stunned. The name of Formation Dao has become well known in this imperial land because of Jia Yan's use, the existence of the Soldier King Squad, and the gradual emergence of more and more Formation Dao masters. However, in the high-end combat power market, the only real Formation master is Jia Yan. Edisha has not exerted her strength in the other world, and the same is true for Leda, so when it comes to the formation, these local masters of the other world think of Jia Yan's name first. Now, I saw another one. This person's strength may not be too high, but with less than a subdivision level strength, he actually blocked the offensive of his subdivision assassin, which shows that his ability is definitely not small. plus the array. The assassin's heart suddenly sank. The great thing about the formation is that it has the extremely terrifying ability to kill enemies beyond levels. You must know that in the Soldier King's team, there are some tiny creatures that are not even humane, but the last time they jointly attacked, they even killed a master who was about to enter the 2nd division level. It can be said that at the master level in the entire dynasty region, he has shown his face. So after the man in front of him also showed his ability in formation, his expression was extremely ugly. If the opponent also has the ability to cross levels to kill enemies, he really won't be able to do so. It's time to carry out the killing mission. The centaur and the horse split their minds and said, "This man is also an exquisite being," and he immediately thought of the relationship between himself and his true body. It's a pity that such a character is destined to die here today. The clone named Jia Yan is quite confident in his abilities. Unless a guru-level master who is equivalent to the lower level of the domain lord comes, I, the King of Heaven, will not be able to save the person in front of me. Poof. The two sides attacked each other again. The opponent's poison power has been invading, but in front of the continuous power of the formation, it is just like an ordinary attack method, and it cannot have too many effects on the human and horse clones. Instead, the other party gradually became unspeakably miserable. He, a subdivision master, gradually became exhausted under the constant fire and blows from the human and horse clones. He tried several times to draw the flames of war to the ambassador, but failed. When the ambassador found the right opportunity, he suddenly, after pulling open the office door and fleeing, his last chance was gone. The only problem he faces now is no longer executing his mission, but how to escape. He knew that he had lost this battle. If he didn't leave quickly, he might even end up here. The centaur clone obviously sensed his thoughts. He said calmly. When the other party entered the ambassador's office, he was actually in a trap. Not to mention that his clone could defeat him. Even if he didn't win, as long as he protected the ambassador, there were other masters outside who could join forces with the clone to restrain him. To put it bluntly, the previous assassination of the senior member of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has caused the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce to enter a first-level alert state. His clone was originally in a semi-sleep state and was awakened by an emergency. Now it seems that it is indeed a quite correct behavior. Suddenly, the assassin creature's gaze became extremely dangerous. Since the ambassador couldn't be killed, then killing the centaur creature in front of him would be a credit, and maybe the merit would be equal to the fault. Bayou. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3334. Although the identity of the centaur creature is not known, he only looks at his strength. He is definitely not a nobody in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. If he can kill him, he may not only not be held responsible for his fault, but may also be rewarded. Oh? Still want to kill me? That's just right, come and try my moves. The power of the array expanded violently. Ripples bloomed violently in this office. The centaur clone had not been able to breathe for a long time, and now after waking up, it was about to cause a scene. The other party happened to want to kill him, so he would make a scene to see how far his own methods were compared to the other clones. The assassin's eyelids twitched, feeling as if he had said the wrong thing. But it was impossible to take it back. The words had already been spoken and it was impossible to take them back. Moreover, he did not think that he would be weaker than the tiny centaur creature in front of him. If you kill the person in front of you, you might be able to find the ambassador in the empty embassy, kill the ambassador, and then leave successfully. Huh? Why do I have so many thoughts? Could it be? Suddenly, the assassin's mind suddenly surged, and his eyes flashed with disbelief. Is it this tiny centaur creature? He turned his attention to the centaur creature, and then he didn't dare to have too many thoughts and approached the window. He's leaving. The direction of the strength of the centaur creature is likely to be influencing the mind. Even he, a subdivision master, was hit, which shows that his abilities are by no means ordinary. Moreover, there are other experts in the embassy. In addition, it is located in a prosperous area of the capital, and there are a large number of palaces of dynasty experts around. It will take too long for experts to come to support him. If he is delayed for a long time, it will be too late to leave. Your Majesty wants to leave, it's a little too late, isn't it? The centaur clone smiled slightly. I want to leave, but you can't stop me. The division-level presence didn't say that much that time. The figure soared into the sky and crashed into the window less than 10,000 kilometers away. But just 10,000 kilometers is the difference between life and death. A formation of light flashed across the entire window, and the person was seen hitting the formation. The seemingly thin formation defense was not as weak as imagined, but directly blocked him. After making a loud noise that shook the earth, the man flew backwards and was caught by the arriving clones. Poof! The centaur clone stabbed his body with one blow, and the assassin was shaken by a huge shock. He looked back at the centaur clone who attacked him in disbelief, his eyes filled with incomprehension. What the hell is your strength? It looked like the inferior master was inferior, but in actuality, even the inferior master himself had no ability to resist, and he felt like a master. However, the centaur clone could not answer his doubts, and just knocked the man down with a calm expression. Thank you, President. You don't need to call me President, I'm just the clone of that person. Okay, I'll leave this person to you. I want to go back and continue my training. If anything happens, let me know. Yes. The ambassador nodded repeatedly. He had long known that Jia Yan had placed a clone here, which was why he refused to move out of the embassy and even ordered his family to stay in the embassy. As long as that person's clone is around, there's no problem with his general safety. But even if he believed it, he still felt shocked when he actually saw a subdivision master who couldn't even defeat his clone. How far has that body reached? Even the clone can easily defeat a junior master, which shows that the strength of his real body is absolutely extraordinary. However, it was impossible for Jia Yan to tell the ambassador. His status was too far behind Jia Yan, and it was impossible to personally detect Jia Yan's strength. In short, it is unfathomable. The embassy of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce was attacked at night, which quickly triggered another chain reaction in the capital. Many people were called from their homes in the middle of the night, and a search began across the city for possible attackers. However, the other parties' whereabouts have been well hidden for a long time, and there is no trace at all. The interrogation of the assassin also started overnight. But just like many people who disliked him, he didn't say anything. The next day, he saw his stiff corpse in the prison. A master at the subdivision level would be gone if he said he was gone, and even the opponent himself did not value his own life, which showed that he was extremely loyal to the organization behind him. This incident left many responsible persons feeling chilled. But even if the assassin himself doesn't speak, there will always be some gains if he catches a living person. For example, countless clues can be seen from the other party's accent, from the other party's fighting ability, from the other party's racial expression, and from the other party's activity and energy patterns. Not from our dynasty. Yes, it is even possible that they are not from our world. They may be a mixture of aliens and people from our world. Mixed blood. Didn't it say that it would be extremely difficult for aliens and people from our world to have offspring? But there are exceptions. This one is obviously that exception, and his strength has been cultivated to such a level. It's a pity that we couldn't pry more information out of his mouth. What should we do with the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce? This matter is because our dynasty failed to protect their safety. If the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce hadn't had its own strong men, it might have been another incident from the night before. Tell me the truth, including apologizing to them for failing to protect them the night before. Okay. The Galaxy Chamber of Commerce quickly received an apology statement from the dynasty, as well as the inside story of the investigation. Could it be a mixture of aliens and people from the other world? The ambassador presented the information to the Centaur clone. As Jia Yan's clone, the Centaur clone's analytical ability was at the same level as Jia Yan's, so after looking at it for a moment, he immediately made his own guess. Sure enough, it was those extraterrestrial visitors who were responsible. Didn't you say that you will live in peace with me? Could it be that they want to cause trouble? The Centaur clone has its own deeper understanding of this matter. Outsiders don't know the many secrets of this world, but now he knows a lot. The extraterrestrial visitors causing trouble may have something to do with the admission tickets or the fight for the secret treasure. Maybe the two waves are not the same wave of people. Jia Yan can only analyze it this way, otherwise there will be too many things that don't make sense. However, even if the analysis is successful, it does not allow him to have too many solutions. If they are those extraterrestrial visitors, according to my previous judgment, it is best to ignore these guys for the time being, because I am not a ticket holder, and there is no need to be at the forefront for the time being. According to I think, this group of people must be in a fierce internal fight right now. If I show up too early, I might be attacked, and the gain outweighs the loss. Jia Yan's theory is not to reveal that he also desires the ticket, otherwise a newcomer like him who knows nothing will be destined to die miserably. Forget it, since the other party didn't send a master-level expert, it means that the other party is either testing me, or they don't want to confront me head-on. Jia Yan did not belittle himself. Even though he was a so-called ticket holder, which was extremely scary to say, he was a well-known junior domain lord, and he had killed a master-level expert more than once in this world. Last time so many experts came to besiege, but they were repelled by him. If any ticket holder doubted him, it would be impossible to trample him to death like an ant. If there are two forces competing for or fighting secretly, both parties will probably spare no effort to win over Jia Yan. This time it might be a test, or it might be another force testing his reaction. The greater possibility is that the other party does not want to kill him with one blow, but wants to see if they can join forces to deal with another company. So, the master-level assassin was really treated as a scapegoat that time. Jia Yan sighed. The strength of this group of guys is probably beyond imagination. A master who is at the secondary master level, which is equivalent to the middle level of the galaxy, or even reaches the primary level of the domain lord level, was abandoned for no reason. The purpose was just for testing. Jia Yan's reaction. But it is also possible that this person is from the prince side, but there are many unexplainable things. Behind the prince, I suspect that it is related to the forces that besieged me last time, and this assassin is related to the prince has nothing to do with it. There are two obvious groups. Jia Yan thought righteously. Senior, do you have any clues? The ambassador's voice sounded at the right time, interrupting Jia Yan's thoughts. Well, I have some ideas, but don't worry, this matter probably has little to do with you. You can stay at the embassy these days, and I will go out. If you gain anything, maybe you can. The crisis is resolved, said the Centaur clone. Okay, sir, please go back quickly. The young ambassador was really worried. His family members were all in the embassy. The previous master was extremely powerful. With one or two more people coming, and the clones of the people were not around, the entire embassy, including himself, was under attack. Risk of destruction. The human and horse clones were quickly dispatched. He first went straight to the point and went to the prince's mansion, where the prince was banned, and paid his respects. After meeting the prince himself, the human and horse clones were neither humble nor arrogant. Even the emperor has this attitude, let alone a mere prince. I have met the senior. Who are you from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce? It's just a deacon, it's not worth mentioning. I'm looking for the prince today because I want to ask about some information. Oh? Senior, if you have anything you want to ask, I will definitely tell you everything. Well. The centaur clone was quite satisfied with the prince's performance. Anyone who could reach the status of prince would not be a fool, so it would be easier to communicate in this way. After asking a few paragraphs about the powerful people around the prince, the centaur clone changed the subject to the matter of opposing the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. I heard that the prince has been dissatisfied with our Galaxy Chamber of Commerce several times in court. I wonder why the prince is dissatisfied with our Chamber of Commerce? If there is anything that can be corrected, our Chamber of Commerce will definitely listen to your opinions. The prince thought to himself, here he comes. He compiled his words and then said calmly, Senior, you must have listened to the slander of some villains. Although this prince has done this before, he said it more from the position of our dynasty. I am very grateful to your Chamber of Commerce. There is absolutely no hostility at all, but seniors, your Chamber of Commerce does have some behaviors and powers that make this prince puzzled. Otherwise, I would have too little hope for a family that can grow the dynasty's economy. Why would you say those inappropriate remarks? Woolen cloth. The centaur clone nodded. This Chamber of Commerce may indeed have done something that made the dynasty uncomfortable, but it was nothing more than self-protection. If the prince can study history, he can go and take a look at the development history of this Chamber of Commerce. Many things are forced to as a last resort. Please ask the Crown Prince for advice. I know a lot about history, and I also know the difficulties of your Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Otherwise, I wouldn't just propose a meeting in the court, but directly take action. Oh? Could it be that you didn't take action? Your Excellency, the Prince, several senior officials of our Chamber of Commerce were assassinated a few days ago. I heard that it was your people who carried out the assassination. The eyes of the prince and the centaur clone collided fiercely, and it seemed like the final moment of breaking up. But the face was not torn after all. The prince became calm again. I'm sorry, I really don't know what the senior means. Why don't you go investigate and find out, and we can talk about it later. A novel app that has been running stably for many years, comparable to the old book chasing tool, a source-changing app used by old bookworms, Huanyuan app. The investigation has been clear. Please give your response and answer to this matter, Your Excellency the Prince. If there is really hostility towards our Chamber of Commerce, then our Chamber of Commerce will take countermeasures. The centaur clone barely had the word revenge written on its face. Of course, revenge is needed. The staff of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's embassy in the Imperial Dynasty have been attacked several times. If the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce does not even respond at all, it will only make the enemy worse. The very existence of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce represents strength in a certain sense. If they were not strong, they would not devour Xiancheng and a large amount of surrounding land. Once you become no longer so strong in this matter, will other surrounding forces regard you as having a problem and instead intimidate you more forcefully? There is no other way. This is the consistent style problem of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. You can't just change the style suddenly just because Jia Yan wants stability now. Therefore, he had to make a relatively extreme reaction to this matter, in order to ensure a unified style. Oh? Is there such a rumor among the people? Please forgive me, Senior. I have never issued such an order, and there are no strong men under me. Anyone who can kill the people in your embassy must be very powerful. Sir, please see if there is anyone in my prince's palace who can do this. The prince looked innocent. Jia Yan glanced around the inside of the prince's mansion, and a powerful wave swept across the entire place where the prince's mansion was located. The prince was slightly shocked, and he thought that indeed, the deacon who emerged from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce was a powerful person. This strength should not be far from the subdivision level, right? Judging from the level of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, which does not seem to be strong, but is generally one level stronger than the appearance of strength, it is not an exaggeration to regard this as a subdivision master.